We're back. It's time for the 2024 Urban NerdCon. Join us in Atlanta, Georgia, April 26th through the 28th at the Cortland Grand Hotel. Special guests include Underworld creator Kevin Grievous, Gary Gray from Fairly Odd Parents, from Nickelodeon, Giovanni Samuels, the Science Machine Michael Green, the Sci-Fi Sisters, and from Spaceballs and Star Trek Voyager, Tim Russ.
Hi, I'm Tim Russ. Join me April 26th through the 28th at the Cortland Grand Hotel in Atlanta, Georgia for the Urban NerdCon. Our heroes, our villains, our stories, everyone con. I'll see you there. Live long and prosper.
Visit theurbannerdcon.net to get your buy one, get one free badges before the price increases. Remember, our heroes, our villains, our stories, everyone's con. See you there.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to the O&G StrikeZone. Bryan Fulford, Marcus Green, Kelvin Rozier. I guess we can still say Happy New Year.
Happy New Year,
Yes,
champ.
only
What's up,
it's only
champ?
2 years, 3 years in. The bloom hasn't gone off the rose yet.
3 days. I don't know what's the timeline. Don't you get like what 5 days to say Happy New Year to people, and then after that it's like cut it, like no more Happy New Year. Was it like
I
five
say it's the first
days?
time. I say
5
it's the
days?
first time you see him.
Oh well, hell, okay. So
Unless it's like summertime, then it's too late.
obviously, yeah. But I mean, like after 5 days, no one should be saying, Happy New Year. I don't care who it is, even if I seen you, even if it's the first time. I'm just saying, just a thought. Thank you.
It ain't that deep.
Yeah, I know. Just a little quick banter here. Thanks for coming in, joining us, everybody who's watching us on Facebook and YouTube. If you're watching us on the Black College Sports Network Facebook page, we appreciate you. Might be watching us on X, also known as Twitter. Appreciate everybody watching us on the JBN YouTube page. Jericho Broadcast Networks is the parent company of the Black College Sports Network, which we are a part of. So that's make sure to hit the thumbs up button wherever you are, hit the bell, and so on and so forth. So that way you can get these notifications. Exactly. And always make sure you're following us on Facebook, Twitter,
We got
Instagram.
sound effects.
Yeah, at O&G StrikeZone. We appreciate it. And those of you watching on YouTube on the JBN, you can always donate with the super chat donation. It's always helpful. Or you see right there that Cash App donation helps us to continue to do some amazing things. We're looking to try to do some things this upcoming year for our show. I always like to say a cup of coffee. You don't have to break the bank. We're not saving jobs or anything like that. A cup of coffee, y'all, helps us be able to keep the show rolling. So we appreciate you. So how you doing this evening, Kelvin, Marcus? How you guys doing tonight?
I'm gonna let Marcus go first because it's been a minute since we've seen him.
Exactly. Happy New Year to you, I guess is appropriate, Marcus.
Thank you. Refreshed from vacation, little, still had the championship glow. Got a little bit of that bloom off, and everything. But you know what? Lord woke me up today, so I'm still happy.
Amen.
I'm thankful.
Amen to that, brother. Amen. What was it like being on vacation with all the news happening, and how did you, how did you manage that with family and everything? Because me, I'd have been a mess. Family wouldn't have seen me, but how'd you do it?
Well, I had limited Wi-Fi access. And the place where we went, you could log on. You could log on 4 devices at a time. So I was like, pulling daddy privilege. Like, you have to get one device per person, and I'm one of them. So, we had to split up. And I was like, oh my gosh, all this stuff going on, and between recruiting and people offers, and then the news hit. So I was just trying to keep up with it and trying to, keep in touch. I did get a chance. I had to piecemeal the show from last week, and Vaughn did a great job. Like I was telling y'all, I might get voted off the island. He did such a good job. But I watched it on YouTube after, like the day after, because I couldn't see it watch it live. It was a great show, a lot of information, and learned a lot as always. And just good to at least keep in touch and see what's going on, even when I was not in the area.
Yeah, definitely. Well, here's what we got. We got a loaded show, and it's going to be a big show. We're going to get to it real early here in the show. Coming up in just a second, we're going to talk to Mr. Curtis Johnson, Jr. Of course, he is the Florida A&M University National Alumni Association president. And what he had to do and spearhead and lead this weekend was I'm not going to say a miracle, but it's amazing to see the leadership that we have in our alumni association, and Mr. Johnson and all of the folks who led the charge, did a great job. And so we're going to talk to him and kind of understand a little bit of the process and how everything shook out, and then kind of ask the important questions that a lot of you have about what now. What do we do with what we gathered and fundraised? So we're going to talk to him about that. We'll get into some other things. Obviously, the search is heavy and hot on a lot of people's minds. Every show in the HBCU media diaspora is talking about us and this search. So, and we'll kind of spend some time parsing through what's real, what's fake news, what we know, and things that we're hearing. Obviously, the coaching search is heavy. We'll look at see if there's any new names that we have heard about, so on and so forth. And then in hour two, the basketball season is right around the corner, 3 days away. Matter of fact, both the men and women's teams are in Daytona Beach, taking on that little school down in Daytona Beach, and we gotta be careful because we're gonna go into that old Rickety gym they got in there. They got two heaters. The men and women's teams are pretty doggone good this year, so we're gonna need Rattler Nation to show up, kind of counteract and give our men and women a little bit of a warm feeling when they get into that cold gym in Daytona. So we'll talk to Olivia Antilla. Live for Hoops should be coming on at the bottom of hour two and kind of give us a preseason look into our men and women's team. So appreciate everybody coming in the chat. I'll do roll call a little bit later because I want to get to our first guest, and we will invite him back onto the show. First time for this year. We welcome in Mr. Curtis Johnson, President of the A&M National Alumni Association. Curtis, Happy New Year. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Hey, Happy New Year, Bryan. Happy New Year, Marcus. Happy New Year, Kelvin. And looking down upon us is Kofi. So Happy New Year, Kofi. Amen. I know you are continuing to smile upon the O&G StrikeZone and well wishes for Florida A&M University.
Amen.
Amen.
Well, amen. Well, what an amazing weekend that the National Alumni Association spearheaded this weekend in the effort to raise funds to see if we could put a competitive package together that would help keep Coach Simmons. So before we go into that, the timeline, I was kind of just doing a little look back into the numbers of raising, but I want to start with when, for you, kind of give us a little background on the origins of when you were called, whether it be by A.D. Sykes or when you learned or when you had this feeling that, okay, we're going to have to do something here. Kind of give us a little background before we actually talk about the process of setting up the fund starting, but just the background of everything.
Right. I appreciate the opportunity, right? So like anything in Rattler Nation, you hear rumors, people start to buzz the phone calls, right? And you hear these things. And we got a phone call from AD Sykes, I did, and we had a conversation. That conversation, resulted in, hey, our coach has been made a formal offer. It's real, right? A lot of people were first like, is this a real offer? And it was a real offer. And, those numbers are put on the table. And AD Sykes made a call to the National Alumni Association to say, hey, can you help? And it was not only a call to me, and I want to be real clear that it just wasn't the National Alumni Association. She picked up the phone and called the boosters. She called the foundation. She called the F Club, the 220 Club, the Alpha Z Kappas. She called everybody, right? Because it's all hands on deck at that point. And she asked us for a specific ask, and that was to say, hey, can the NAA contribute, $25,000, right, towards a package that she was putting together, right? Only she knew what needed and what was needed, so she asked us to contribute. So, I took that conversation on a Friday morning. It was somewhere around about 11 o'clock or so, maybe mid morning. I immediately called an emergency meeting that evening, my board, and so I have to commend them because they jumped on a call that Friday when I sent out a notice through our system that we were having an emergency meeting. It was regarding the coach's contract, and it had already become a buzz on social media, so everyone's kind of aware of this. So we had a meeting that evening. It was a very open meeting. Our meetings are always very transparent. We had an open board meeting where our board members had discussion. We made a commitment as a national organization to support not only a $25,000 this year, but for at least 3 years. So we signed up for a 3-year commitment to make sure that at least $25,000 is coming from the NAA each of those 3 years. So it was a $75,000 commitment we made that night. And what was interesting that night is, we have a board of 20, 25 board members, right? When you add them all up. We had board members on there, but we had over 700, close to 700 people that tuned in just to hear what was going on. So that kind of really helped us to get the word out that, not only were we going to commit from the National Alumni Association, but we were asking Rattler Nation altogether. If you were a member of the NAA or not a paid member of the NAA, there was still a platform for you to give. And Rattler Nation showed up and Rattler Nation showed out. And so it was amazing that, I made a commitment that I'd come back in 24 hours. Of course, at Rattler Nation, they want stuff instantaneously. And we began to get the buzz somewhere around, I need to put some information out around 12 hours. And so 12 hours, we had done some amazing stuff as far as fundraising. I forget exactly what it was, but within 12 hours, we had already exceeded our goal. Let's just put it like that. And it just kept going and growing from that. And so, where we are right now and where the last numbers that we came in online, and I say online because we may have people that have mailed in checks. We may have people that have directly sent through the foundation to the account number we told them to send to. So we have to tally all of that up, right? And so we will make a full transparent of what we have. But what I can say is what came in through the online portal, through the website, and the link we gave was around $138,000 in about 48 hours. And so, not only did we meet our goal, we funded our goal of at least 75,000, right? And so, what we're going to do is we're going to have at our next board meeting, in which will be the third Wednesday of January, we will meet. All people are invited to come. We'll have a discussion. I'm going to have some recommendations of what we do with those funds. But like I said, we raise those funds, and this what needs to be real clear is that we raise funds for the football coaches compensation. And when I say coaches, it's not just one. What just wasn't Willie Simmons, right? It was what Willie Simmons brought to the AD is that, hey, I've got assistant coaches and people we hired, grad coaches, assistants, and they have salaries too that need to be met. And that was a part of his ask, is how do we get monies? Because he was concerned also about his assistant coaches and how do we put some monies together. And so the National Alumni Association, along with many other organizations, made a commitment. Our commitment was football coaches compensation. So that $25,000, when it comes time to address the football coaches in plural compensation, the NAA will be contributing $25,000 to that. And as they break it up as to who gets what, etc., they'll do that behind the scenes. But that bolus of money will help them address the coaches' compensation.
Okay. Just to highlight some of those numbers, and like I said, I was going back looking through the tweets. December 30th, 12:10 p.m. is when the post went out that 66,000 plus had been raised, which already you'd already surpassed that $25,000 mandate, right? And then 8 hours later, it had jumped to 92,000, just short of 93.
Right.
Then the next day, 12/11, it was already over 100,000 at 106,000. By 8 p.m. New Year's Eve, 126,000, 6 something. And then, of course, as you mentioned, January 1, probably maybe an hour and a half before we learned that Coach Simmons had turned in his resignation, it was 138,353. And then it's still going. So just to give people that growth in those numbers. And it was funny, you were talking with us offline. You were watching the numbers. What was it like watching those numbers in the smaller incremental time spans that you saw?
You know, I'm just so proud of Rattler Nation, right? I was elected, but it's Rattler Nation. It's not me. It's the people, right, that had the faith and trust. And I'm just happy that they trust us as a National Alumni Association. We're going to have full transparency of every nickel, cent, dime that we have. We're going to make sure people understand exactly where that money goes because, and I said that before, Coach Simmons has moved on to a great opportunity and we wish him very well and his family, and that's great. But the challenge and the issue still resides at Florida A&M University of how do we compensate our head football coach along with the assistant coaches that make up a program that helped him become successful. And so I'm just so happy that Rattler Nation trusts us to take this money. It will be put in an account that will not be earmarked and will not be commingled with other funds. And this money will be used directly for football coaches' compensation so that when we address this issue again, we got to hire a new coach. He's going to probably want to bring in a few additional staff members. Last time I checked, they get paid salaries, the coach, right? So we're going to be able to provide those funds to continue to boast Rattler football at Florida University. And that's what really makes me so proud. I just wish that everyone could see what I saw. We're going to recognize some of those very top donors. I mean, we had one donor that gave an amazing amount of money. And I'm going to recognize that person, right? I'm going to recognize some of those top tier people. But when you look at it in summary, the totality, it was somewhere close to 800-900 transactions that came in, right? So it wasn't just like one person gave a lot of money. Yeah, we had one person gave a really significant amount, but it was a lot of people that gave from their heart. And I'm just honored to be able to serve as a servant leader of the National Alumni Association, one that believes in transparency, one that will make sure that people understand where their monies went. And I'm just happy that you guys are giving me an opportunity to share this, right? Because I hear the rumors, I hear the things out there, and Rattlers know that we were given to a program. Right. And Rattler football, like we say, is Rattler football today, Rattler football tomorrow, Rattler football forever.
Amen.
And so we have to support our program. And those things that Coach Simmons surfaced, when you get a counter offer, he put some things on the table and said, if you guys want to, these are the things that got to be done. And there were some things that we were not prepared for, that we got a good wake-up call. And I look forward to that conversation with Rattler Nation as a whole, that you'll learn over time that what we put together to try to secure the coach, but what we need to do in the future, because we're going to continue to have winning traditions at Florida University. And as you know, winning breeds success, and that success is going to attract people that's going to try to attract the talent away.
Go ahead, Kelvin.
So I want to know, this is going to be a compound question, right?
Yes, sir.
Because what you're doing is important, and I want to draw some things out. The first thing you kind of answered, but I just want to make sure. You said that 138K number was just online, so I'm assuming that didn't include any pledges. This is dollars in.
So let me be clear. The numbers we pulled in are straight cash dollars. We didn't take pledges. So they put their credit card down, they PayPal, whatever it is, hard cash. You know, I don't think we had any crypto, but we had straight hard cash that came in, right? So we're sitting on 138 right now that will be put into an account that will be tailored. That we're creating a brand new account. Let's put it like that, at the FAMU Foundation. So we're going to move that money away from it, because here's what Kelvin, that we have to understand is that the National Alumni Association has always supported FAMU football. Yes. And this goes all the way back to 2017, and Greg Clark, some of those guys, they put together something called FAMU First. And so that we used that account because we had to spring into action literally within hours. So we knew we had an account. We know exactly when the first dollar hit. So we got all the transactions and the timestamp. So we knew what was in the account prior, and we knew what was in the account when we activated to go into aspects. So all of that money that came in under the auspices of supporting FAMU football coaches conversation, every last cent will be pulled off. And that will be put into that account. We're going to create a brand new account that'll have a brand new number, and that'll be entitled something around FAMU football coaches compensation. It'll be a totally separate account with a totally separate account number, and we'll keep that going. So we'll have basically two point, right? We'll have one for compensation, and we'll have our FAMU First account. And if I can say something about the FAMU First account, you know, we have always supported Rattler football. And I just want Rattler Nation to know that this year alone, coming into the football season, we had about $45,000 that we had collected in the FAMU First account. And that was just from our national convention. So when we have our convention, and this year it's going to be in Tampa, Florida, we let people know, hey, if you want to contribute, you can contribute to account 2033, FAMU First. Well, what does that support? Coach and recruiting. If the coach needs to go on a recruiting trip and need some money there, if they need nutrition, if they need new uniforms and helmets and that, we give that money directly to the coach of the football team. So Willie got an amount, $45,000, that came from the National Alumni Association. And so he could use that money to plug some gaps. So we've always been, you know, prone to support Rattler football, right? And you know, you've heard the Rattler Strike Tours. There have been some chapters that have undertaken some of those Rattler Strike Tours to support that. So the NAA, you know, is there to support it, right? But we also support a lot of other programs on campus. And that's what I'm really trying to get people to understand, is that we support football, but I got a lot of students right now that need $500, $1,000 just to register to keep moving through Florida University. And that's really our main focus, is to support all student scholarships up to including athletes that may need some support. But most cases, a lot of those guys are on scholarship. So they're taken care of. But we want to make sure that we're doing our bit as alumni to support the matriculation of students there. And so we've got a lot of pots. We got a lot of pots for people to contribute to. We try to stay in our lane. We try to support those other functions, 220, Rattler F Club, the boosters. We've done some joint programming. I mean, we are here to support all aspects of it, but they rang the bell. We answered. We had a platform immediately in place. We engaged it, and we committed and the full-pledged support of the FAMU National Alumni Association to say we'll sign up for 3 years and we'll make sure at least you have 25,000 going forward each year for 3 years.
Nice.
You did a beautiful job of going into the fact that what y'all do at the convention. I've had the pleasure of being able to see that, and
Right.
that you know that you fundraise all the time, which is why you had this platform and mechanism for people to use, and I think that was part of your success.
Right.
Moving on, the
Yeah.
question is, now that we've seen that when you have a specific ask to Rattler Nation,
Mm-hmm.
and there's some trust and some credibility now that folks have invested in this thing. It's something like, how do we build how does the NAA, how does the university at large, the foundation, which I know you can't speak for, but how do we take this possibility and what we've done here and make it an even larger scale?
Well, I want to thank you guys for giving me an opportunity to share this, right? Because I think people need to hear it. First and foremost, I sit also on the foundation board. The foundation board did some amazing stuff in putting together some numbers and some cash that was a part of the offer. And I'm going to let the chair of that board, Ms. Lisa LeBou, and them disclose that at however they want to. But I sit on that board, and I was a part of that emergency meeting that happened New Year's Day, okay, or something, right? I mean, so we moved money, right, to make sure we matched this offer. So on New Year's Eve, I'm sorry, we met that Sunday at 5:00. But I can tell you that there were a lot of moving parts. And I think as we disclose more and people understand that this is what we did, and people are transparent and people understand where their money's went, I think that it just breeds a success to know that we can do this. I mean, I'm so proud of Rattler Nation. I don't take any credit for this. I just happen to be here. I activated. I've got great people on my team, my media and technology, my correspondent secretary, assistant correspondent secretary, my first, second, third VP, all of these guys, my Florida region, everybody activated. And we just knew what we needed to do. And we got behind it as a board. And we pledged the full faith and credibility of the National Alumni Association, which has done this before. I mean, you mentioned, our convention. We raised almost $350,000 in Illinois, and we're coming into Tampa, and I've got big goals for us to raise in Tampa. I want to raise $500,000 in Tampa at my national convention this year, and I think people would do it if we just continue to help them understand. And I think, I would challenge you guys as we move forward to help people understand some facts. And some of the things you said earlier about facts and myths. I hear all this stuff. I'm almost social just like you guys, right? And there's so much stuff that's not true and people don't understand. And I'm going to challenge the administration and these boards I sit on and say, hey, we got to get facts out here. How much money did we really get from the Celebration Bowl? How much money did we get, right? Because when people understand that, you hear one thing in media, but I'm sitting on boards and I'm like, you guys, it may say $1 million, but that don't come to FAMU. That goes to the conference. Yes. And then it's broken down, and then you get a prorated part of being a champion, and then it goes throughout that. And so, my challenge in a good way is to say we tell the people more, give the people more, and the people will give us what we need to be successful. And I think the more we do that, I think that our fundraising efforts will go up because people just don't know. And they think one thing, and I just I'm going to lead the way by the national alumni. That's what I have been charged to do as a leader, and get my board to get behind that. So that's what we are, Kelvin. And, like I said, we're going to have a full accounting, full reporting. We're not going to hide where that money is and what account it's in. And every time we give a $25,000 check, you might as well get ready to see my ugly face up there along with everybody else saying, commitment made, commitment kept, right? And here's the money, right? And that's what I can promise you will happen as long as I'm sitting here as the NAA president.
Great. I'm gonna let Marcus go now, but I got some more leading questions if they don't cover it.
Yeah, no problem.
Well, thank you, Mr. Johnson, for coming on. I guess the two questions from a clarity standpoint, we have
Yes.
$138,000 collected.
Yeah.
And that's from the electronic transactions and not necessarily counting anything that's mailed in or anything donated in cash, in hard cash, in tangible
Or
cash.
donate directly to the foundation, right? Some people could have sent it through the foundation site to the actual account. So
Okay.
we put our link out. So when you clicked on that link we put out, that came through our portal at the NAA. So we were able to monitor that in real time.
Okay. And I guess since VPAD sites made different asks of different organizations and affinity groups and DSOs, is the 138,000 representative of the collective funds from all
No,
of those
sir.
different DSOs or just for the NAA? So there may be other pots of money through the Rattler F Club, through the 220 QB Club, through the other. So we don't have a total scope of everything that may have been collected through the various tentacles and vehicles.
That is absolutely correct.
Okay.
And thank you for clarifying that. This is just the National Alumni Association that's collected this 138,000 electronically.
Okay. And the second part of my question maybe is a little bit tied into what Kelvin asked a little bit before about how we go sustaining forward, something along these lines. But I guess my question is more retroactively, and perhaps it may be a question that's better suited for VP 80 Sykes or Michael Smith. This was kind of a call to action, as you mentioned, but was there any thought or consideration or any foreshadowing that could have been done such that this could have been done perhaps at the beginning of 2023, or were there any communications such that we could have made this effort, or perhaps it was, but not at such a smaller scale, and then it just got magnified when Coach Simmons got another offer? But what could have been done? Is there any inkling or any warning sign or even any consideration to have some initiatives like this beforehand so that it doesn't happen when a Power 5 school makes an offer?
That's an excellent question. Here's how I look at it. I've been fortunate enough to be around a little bit, right? I've got a few mango seasons behind me, as they say. We've seen people, we can just look just last year to what happened to Dion, right? And him getting pulled away by Colorado and offer there. And I'm sure JSU made an effort, right? We should have known that something of that magnitude could happen also to our high caliber coach, right? And so what I would say to you is that part of that it really relies on, AD Sykes. But I can tell you what I am most proud is that we stand as an alumni of a collective alum to be able to have some type of say into being able to support our AD, our coaches, football coaches, when it comes to this. So we have a little war chest, and I put this out prior. I said we built a little war chest of money here. Sure, we want to add to it, right? And it's not saying it's going to do that, but we've done something and demonstrated that we can do this, and we need to continue to do this, because as we continue to win, and there are other programs that we have successful coaching in. We've got baseball, we've got track, we've got basketball, we've got all this stuff that we need to be able to defend and support. And I think that this will demonstrate what we need to do to be able to build that war chest. And I don't know where it's going, but I was having a conversation today, and some people are sad, and we all are saddened about Coach Simmons leaving. But in most cases, we learn from these opportunities, and this was a valuable exercise. That Rattler Nation, and we will take this, we'll learn from this, we will grow from this, and we'll go from this, because we know now that people are looking at us. We have a national brand, and we need to be able to put some monies together and have them set aside so that when that opportunity comes, as you say, it could be earlier. It could be like, wow, he just beat, won the Classic. We just won the SWAC. Yeah, we need to start talking right away, right? So that part of that, I can't answer. I think that's an AD question. When did they first learn of this stuff? I just know from outside of looking in, we beat Alabama State and we won the SWAC, and then we, did all this stuff. And it was just writing on the wall that, yeah, we got to be prepared for this. And so that's a question I can't answer. But what I can tell you is that I'm here to support it as a National Alumni Association to say this is a vehicle, as well as the other direct support organizations. And I think what this is going to probably challenge us to do is to see how we work together.
Yes.
Right? And how do we
Go there.
help these other DSOs. I know some of their platforms. I don't know all of them, but we have been fundraising for many years at the NAA. So we have platforms already in place. So it was easy for us to hit the switch, communicate, put it out there, and we're in place, right? And so, we do this. This is what we do for scholarship for young people, and we award hundreds of thousands. I mean, we've already given $150,000 this year alone for young people at Florida A&M University through our National Scholarship Program. So that's what these chapters do. And somebody the other day said, well, what does the NAA do? Well, we help young people go to Florida A&M University that may not have a chance to go. We raise monies for them. And we do it in a lot of different ways. So it's these chapters, man. It's not me. It's the chapters. It's the people out here. It's them partaking of the fundraisers we do and contributing that we're able to do this. And I just want to thank Rattler Nation, right, and active alums and those that are not a part of NAA that they gave.
Well, thank you.
And again, I want to emphasize, and I'm not gonna hold Curtis to this because we're gonna address a few things. You guys have questions. Say again what you just said about the NAA's role, because it is designed to help all. How many students do we have at Florida A&M? 9,000 something.
Yeah, close to that, right?
So again, the NAA's role, everybody, is to help all 9,000 students at Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University. This was a call to action specifically for the football program using a tool, a vehicle, which was already pre-established. Right. So a lot of your questions that you have is not on the NAA and not on Curtis Johnson. We'll talk about where those things should be placed after we finish our conversation with Curtis. But again, the NAA, everybody. Say that again. Say anything I'm missing.
Like I said, we gave $150,000 in scholarships. So young people apply, right? We have the Save Our Student scholarship, which Greg Clark started, right? And so we had students in the middle of the semester. I get an email list from Vice President Hudson. It's like, hey, this student needs, $200 for a book fine or $500 or whatever to stay in school. And we have a lot of students right now that are what I call unsheltered, right? And they need support, right? And we need to support these students, because if we don't, it negatively impacts Florida A&M University and our performance. And so we want to keep our students on track. We want to keep them moving through. These chapters recruit students, meaning that some of the times that people first learn of Florida A&M University is because somebody in a local community pulled some little kid aside and said, hey, you can go to school and let me tell you about Florida A&M University, right? And that's the first time. And so these chapters do this work. And then they not only recruit them and expose them to Florida University, they literally put them on a bus and bring them up here for spring preview and walk them around campus and show them all the glitz and glamour of the orange and green. And then that kid gets home and say, you know what? I love Florida University. I want to go, but my parents don't have the money to send me. And that's when these chapters go in to figure out scholarship dollars. Is a kid, got a high academic standard, they can get some scholarships, but how do we fundraise to support our local kids, young people coming out of these communities at Florida University? And that's the work we do. And when we have conferences and we come together in Tampa, we're going to have a good time, but we're raising money so that we can give a national scholarship for kids that qualify, that need some money to get through Florida University. And that's why I ask people to join the National Alumni Association. That's why I ask them to become life members, because once you get your life membership, it is a life insurance policy that lasts forever. And that money is restricted. It's over there in an interest-bearing account. And long after we have all departed this earth, those young people will continue to draw interest. We'll continue to draw interest to put in to fund our scholarship program. And that's what we do, right? We have a lot of fun, but we also are making sure that FAMU is forever. And that's why you need to become a member of the National Alumni Association.
Well said. Well said. Curtis, let people know where they can go to be a member, how they can give the plugs, let people know where they can support, and again, give the early plug about the national convention this summer in Tampa.
Right. So go to famunaa.org, famunaa.org. Everything is there. The convention is there. We're going to be in Tampa, Florida, starting the last part of March 29th to June 2nd. We are really, all my focus right now is building that convention. We're going to have a lot of celebrity guests. We're going to start to release who's coming. There are some celebrities that live in Tampa. I'm sure that you guys know some of those guys. They're going to be a part of our convention. We're going to raise some money. We're going to cruise around Tampa Bay on a luxurious yacht. We got a few other great programming. We're going to raise money. And more importantly, we're going to have a good time, all for a cause of famunaa.org. And if you've not become an annual member, which is less than $100, right? You become an annual member, or you become a life member, which is only a one-time commitment of $750. You can become a member of this organization, and your contributions will help support those students. And so I welcome those conversations. If you ever have any questions, my information is on the website. Feel free to reach out to me or the corresponding secretary. We will answer any and all questions. But again, this is not about me. I'm just so proud of Rattler Nation, right? Rattler Nation did this, not me. We're going to do more. We want to do more. And we're always looking for good people to be a part of the NAA, right? And let me just clarify this, and thank you for giving me 30 seconds on this. We don't work for the university. We're a 501c3 organization, and all of the officers, every last one of them, are volunteers. We have full-time jobs. We're moms, we're dads, we're grandparents. We got a full life, but we sign up for that extra call of duty and volunteer and raise our hands and say, hey, elect me to be your president or first vice president or whatever, because I'm willing to go the extra step. But we're all volunteers. And sometimes people, they ring the phone, and, I get on my offices all the time. We signed up for this, so we have to answer the bell. But just know that we are here to support Florida University and support those students. And I just want to thank every last officer in throughout the NAA, either on the national board, if you're president, if you're region vice president, if you're just an annual member and serving in a local chapter somewhere in the United States. We have over 80 chapters. I just want to say thank you and Happy New Year. And I look forward to being your president as we come into this national convention in Tampa.
Looks like Kelvin's got one final question for you there, Curtis.
Oh, I'm here.
So I got two asks.
Okay.
Moving, and this is about moving forward.
Okay.
At the convention in Tampa, I hope that you all will put a segment together, section, and I know you've done it before, that addresses athletic specifically.
Yeah.
And it'll talk about giving, strategic plans, capital athletic campaign. It'll have some teeth to it, because I would tell you, one of the most disappointing things for me as a member, and you also have subscribing life membership too, which is what I'm doing now. But I've been a part of the NA for since the 90s, right?
Now, Kevin, you better close that out, because I'm about to go up on membership. I'm gonna tell you that too. We're going up to $1,000 for life membership, so you better close that out pretty soon. All right?
I saw that.
Okay.
Breaking news.
But that's fine.
Breaking news.
But that's fine. I'm in. But
Okay.
I'll close it out shortly. But that being said, I hope that the Alumni Association will take the lead, because I know you all have done a lot of things outside of athletics, but you all have been the most visible consistently you all in the 220 club, but in terms of assistant athletics, and I think a voice is needed to help guide and push the administration, the foundation, and which you sit on the board and structuring our support and arm our revenue arm giving, so that we can get to the point. Because on this show we talk about a lot having a capital campaign, and you mentioned being a life member and how that lasts forever. And basically what you're talking about is a endowed scholarship. We should have endowed scholarships for athletics also, as well as those coaching positions. So I don't think Rally Nation, because the universe has never really talked about and put that out there, I think we need that forum, and I think y'all are a perfect platform to do it, especially with what y'all just done.
So let me tell you what we're doing. I'm so glad you brought that up. Number one, and even last year when the AD was brand new, we invited her to Schaumburg. She came. We had a town hall, right? So that will definitely be a part of this. So we will give that forum to the athletic director to speak about obviously new programs, new things, new developments, etc. So you can count on that being a part of the NAA conference. Also, what's breaking news right here, Bryan, that you need to understand is that for the first time at this convention, all of the governing bodies are coming together. So I want to thank the chair of the Board of Trustees, Ms. Christian Harper. She's actually bringing the Board of Trustees meeting to the conference. So they'll probably start like on Wednesday and handle actual Board of Trustees meeting information. The foundation board will be meeting at this conference. The Rattler cluster, FAMU cluster, which is the business industries led by Ms. Cheryl Harris, right? They will be there. So we're bringing all the people under this theme of one FAMU, stronger together in the Bay. That's our theme. And so we literally are bringing all of these arms together. And for the first time, all of these entities. So some people who've maybe never been to a Board of Trustees meeting or seen one in live action, we will have a Board of Trustees meeting leading into the convention. It'll probably be that Wednesday, early Thursday, but there's Board of Trustee information in that will transpire. The foundation board will be meeting. The cluster, which brings in a lot of our industry partners, the corporate 500 companies, will be there. This is going to be quite the conference that you want to be at, and even as a Rattler. If you're looking just to network and connect and get that family feeling, you want to be in Tampa. And by the way, we just extended early registration because I felt so proud of what we've done, and I wanted to give Rattlers a little break to push it out. So those life members, go on the website. It tells you right up front. We've extended that deadline now to January 19th. So take advantage of it. We're adding a lot to this convention, and we're taking over Tampa. We're going to paint it orange and green. We're going to raise some money, and we're going to collect like none other. And your great ideas, that's going to be the environment to foster these conversations in. Thank you for bringing that up, Kelvin. I really appreciate that, because, that's a part that a lot of people, may have missed. There's never been a convention that you've had the board of all of your trustees of the university there. You got your foundation members. We've got some dynamic people doing work on these boards that you guys have no idea about, that you'll get a chance to see up front. And those meetings are open. So you can go sit in on the foundation meeting and the Board of Trustees meeting and hear what we talk about. That's the part of transparency that we're bringing, that we want people to know and see.
Awesome. That's a great point. So this will be a great opportunity. Like we have long told people, don't sit in the chat rooms and just comment about things. You want to be a part of the process, go to the meetings, find an opportunity to speak, make your voice known. For far too long, we have sat back and commented on the side about this, that, and what they should be doing and what he and she should be doing. No, be involved in the process, whether it be
what we should be doing.
What we
should be doing.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
We got to unify. Those
meetings are free. Those meetings are free. You don't have to pay to get into those meetings. That's sunshine. That's open to the public. You are welcome to come and listen. It'll be broadcast online too, of course, right? So we broadcast those meetings. But if you're in Tampa and surrounding area, come, and then you get a chance to see your trustees and people up close. You get a chance to, break bread with them.
So let me say one other thing, Curtis.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know, I got to be fair. We consistent. We keep it real around here.
Let's keep it real. Come on.
One of the biggest disappointment I had in attending the conventions, as a registered person,
Yes, sir.
which turned me off for a while, but
Come
I'm
on.
going to register. I'm gonna register. I'm gonna be to this one now.
Come on
Is
now.
that
What is it?
you come to the convention, and then it's a dog and pony show. Everybody kind of hiding. You control who can come to the mic and comment. And you know, it doesn't feel like substantive things are done. You don't leave with a vision. The fundraising part is fine. You do,
Yeah.
you definitely raise money, but in
Right.
terms of vision and actually pushing leadership and so forth, to me, that's the forum to do that kind of stuff.
Okay. Let's figure out, give me a chance to figure that out, right? So you do know, and I hear you, well received. There are some things that we do need to hear from public comment from people, right? And try to find the right categories to put them in. But also we have to also do the business of the NAA. Right? We got bylaw amendments, changes, things that are kind of outdated. We need to update in our bylaws. We have to vote on our budget, right? You know, there's just some kind of semi-boring things that we have to do just to be able to do that. But I hear you loud and clear. And I think that what you're saying is you want some opportunities to have those conversations and interactions with those appropriate officials while they're there to voice those concerns. And so let me take that upon a challenge, and let me see if you know, we can make that commitment and keep that commitment this year in Tampa, Florida, and beyond.
Okay,
I accept
Well
that.
said.
Okay.
Well said. And hey, Curtis, we want to make sure we're there. We got a spot. We can come do our show. We can come do a show, maybe a
I'm
couple
gonna
of
invite you
shows.
to do that. I want you to do that. That was gonna be. I want you guys there to do your show. Sit you up in the lobby, overlooking the bay somewhere.
There you
I
go.
think that would be great. I think we need to really figure that out. So I'm going to reach out to our committee team and invite you in, because we need to make sure that we have some live feedback from people of their experience there, and that could really help. And let's get on that sooner than later, Bryan, and make sure that happens. I think that's welcome. And you know, I want you also to interview some of our senior gems that have been an alumni for a long time, and share their thoughts and where we're going and growing in vision. Absolutely. I love it.
Yes, indeed.
Love to do it.
All right. Hey, thanks for your time this evening, Curtis. Again, thank you, FAMUNAA.org for everybody. And we'll continue the conversation here a little more coming up out of the break. You're watching the O&G StrikeZone right here on the Black College Sports Network. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a moment.
Yeah, let's
if
go.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
As technology continues to bring changes to the world of education, it's time we also reimagine teacher professional development. Gone are the days of one-size-fits-all learning that can only be accessed at a specific time and place. The Stride PD Center is an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that allow educators to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. The best professional development plans are those that include a level of flexibility and choice for educators. Whether you're a teacher, school, or district, visit us today to take charge of your learning.
All right, welcome back to the O&G Strike Zone. Bryan, Marcus, Kelvin. Again, appreciate Curtis Johnson coming in and talking with us and giving an insight into some things. Okay, you guys, you guys are hot and heavy in the chat room, boy. I tell you what, y'all, some of y'all off the chain, boy. Appreciate you, Bull. Yes, definitely. Great conversation there with Curtis Johnson. The biggest thing that I want to underscore, hear me out, people. The NAA's job is A, all FAMU students. B, as it relates to this particular fundraiser, okay? This fundraiser was specifically, as he said, for football coaches. Okay? And that is because it is and the reason this was a tool, a vehicle that was already in place, as he told us, $45,000 was already in the pockets, in the budget prior to the start of this. And AD Sykes came to them asking for, now think about this, asking for $25K, and think about what was raised. So the commitment, $25K over 3 years, each of the next 3 years, right? That's a $75,000 commitment. Look what was raised. 136 plus. Okay?
And counting.
And counting. Now,
I think it's important. Hey, Bryan, I know you've been making a point, but I think it's important because I this is a moment where FAMU Rattler Nation has to be united, right? We know, and we're going to get into some things that give us some distrust and some disappointment about being in this position. And those things are legitimate. But people who are actually trying to help and make a difference, we need to be supporting and contributing to. So, you know, you can't poo-poo on somebody who was asked specifically, or organization was asked specifically, just come up with 25 and they come up with 138. And you talking about the ills of our athletic department, like you say, that's on AD, and she need to come on our show. Don't think we haven't asked now.
Oh,
we working on it.
Okay.
All right, I had to say that.
No, okay. I'm gonna address things like this. Sabrina Peoples, what was $25,000 going to do? That's a question for the athletic director, Sabrina.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna tell you flat out. That is a question for because here's what I want you to think about. The boosters. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Now, a lot of people were, and I saw this in the comments. There's so much here to unpack. So I want to try to, I could, if I get to jumping around, catch me here. Okay.
We'll pull you back.
There is first off, there is supposed. No, it's not supposed. It's known. There is bonus money, right, that was owed to coaches that, to my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, Kelvin or Marcus, that had not been paid from, I believe it was either 21 or 22.
Previous
correct?
Seasons, yes.
Correct. Okay. So now, who was responsible for that money? Well, to my knowledge, that was responsible by, it was supposed to be taken care of by another DSO, a DSO that is supposed to work directly with athletics. So when the money that was brought to the Booster Club, they were presented with making a commitment of $50,000 over 3 years. So notice what's happening here. Initially, she's going to the boosters, wanting to get 50, going to The NAA wanted to get 25. I don't know what the number was. What did Alpha Z, the chapter, the Kappas,
25.
they committed 25. You had the I don't know what Rattler F donating
220
and 220. So you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 groups, maybe more, right? That was being asked. Okay, everybody still with us, right? Being asked to pot. Now, the bigger question that some of y'all are asking, let me see who I can find it that asked it so eloquently. Let me see.
By the way, I know we didn't do while you looking. I know we hadn't done shout outs yet, but I got to do one just to aggravate her. So when she comes on, she can talk trash. What's up, Stashay?
You see her stop. Oh, there she is. Sashay. Happy New Year, baby.
Boy, we gonna get it.
Look, 5 entities, right? So do the math. Why? The biggest question that you all have is why? Marcus, this is one of your pet peeves. Why did it take this weekend for this to happen? So we ask, we can't get into asking and deflecting this thing onto other organizations, right?
That responded.
They responded to the call. But yes, if you want to further backdate it and say, well, we talked about this on last Wednesday's show. We talked about this is what spurred the whole secure Willie Simmons thing, right? The question of, well, when should these conversations have started? Well, hell, these conversations now granted, you got changeover now. You've had 3 ADs in 3 consecutive years.
All right,
so
Bryan, don't be getting in my talk now.
Marcus, you better hurry up and jump in.
Hey,
and
Marcus, I want Marcus to go ahead, but let me just say this now. This, what we're talking about, in terms of that P3s, we've been talking a long time. When Kofi was here with us, we were talking about having some vision out of athletics, and that was one of our biggest complaints. And I see a lot of folks still have those complaints, and rightfully so. But we got to. What did I say Monday? What is the consequence for folks not providing those things? It hasn't been one at this point, right? We just keep changing over ADs and coaches and everything else, but we don't come up with a long-term plan. If we had all these transitions of ADs and coaches, but we had a plan, things could still get accomplished. Yes. But we got to follow through on some of this stuff. We talked about that. They already have established some feasibility studies and so forth of athletics. We've got our administration and our leaders, which is why I challenged Curtis to kind of spearhead this thing. Something like that convention when everybody's in one place. That's where these conversations got to happen and action has got to be started. So that's all I'm gonna say for now. I know, Marcus, you got a whole thing you finna do. So
well, Marcus, touch on that part about your concerns with this, because that part that people are asking about is also one of your big concerns. And again, I'll let you speak to it in your own way with one of those concerns, because I know that's something that you have brought up and want to address.
Yes, I kind of mix and match, and I know that I have this document that you want to publish. I don't know if you already published it on the website.
No, I haven't. I'm gonna wait for you to kind of give the blessing on it before we publish that.
Yeah, just a brief overview. I guess I have it broken down in 2 sections. How do we get here, and where do we go going forward? So I'm going to do a high level overview because I don't want to take too much time. But basically, in terms of Coach Simmons leaving, and folks like Jimmy Mack and some other folks probably already know this from other conversations. this was like the worst kept secret in the world. Because I mean, and I have some things documented, but basically, I mean, we from the time that Coach Simmons was hired, and I know he's been a hot name for about 10 years now. And I think going back to some of the previous conversations in other forums, we were looking at him back at 2013, 2014, but I guess the conventional thought was that he wasn't ready yet. Then he went and did his coaching circuit, then went to PV, was at Alcorn, and then eventually ended up with us. But as soon as we signed the contract in December 2017, some of us, like Kelvin, myself, and others, like, he's not going to be here long. He's too young. He's basically got the profile of a turnaround coach, a turnaround artist, and those are on high demand, and he's hungry. So I don't know, if this caught anybody by surprise, then you really weren't paying attention. Other things, he's been on podcasts when he first came over from Prairie View. He still had some of the first podcasts on with Mike Prince, who was, I guess, a radio personality in the Houston area. And I think he may have been on the call for summer. He's PV of Prairie View affiliated. So I don't know if he's the play-by-play person or something along those lines. Even the first few conversations, they talked about eventuality of getting back to FBS and whether that was still a goal. And Coach Simmons never hit it. When Holly Rowe came and spoke to the Tallahassee QB Club in 2019, she did, I guess, what she calls her on-the-spot interview, or what she call it, like a selfie interview. And basically, she put it on Facebook and said he's a rising coaching star. In 2021, Coach Simmons became a part of the National Coalition of Minority Coaches as one of the 13 FCS coaches to get paired up with a panel of coaches and former ADs. And I believe his mentor was Debbie Yao, the first woman athletic director in the ACC at Maryland NC State, to interview and learn what these candidates need to do in order to progress to FBS. In the What About Us episode, I didn't get the exact episode number, but I watched all 8 episodes in 2021. He said the question was asked. I don't know if it was like an off the question or however, but it came, if he got an FBS opportunity, would he listen? He said, you know what, it'd be hard to leave FAMU, but I would have to listen. I'd at least take a listen. So there've been breadcrumbs throughout the year since he got here. And, then eventually 2021, we know he got a serious offer from South Carolina. We heard about it through the grapevine it didn't get the same publicity as this, but we heard about it. The other thing, and this is like how we got to this point. So I'm just laying that groundwork. The other thing, and I won't go into detail because it'll be in the paper, but basically you look at his coaches' promotions over the last 6 years, 5 seed playing seasons. He's had 1, 2, 3, at least 10 coaches, 10 plus coaches move on to other jobs. At some point, he's going to adopt the same mentality of the name of that documentary. What about us? What about me? Not saying that this was, the all-time worst position in the world, but you have coaches going to FBS. Coach Joe Henry came back, but he went to Arkansas, Missouri, Arkansas, LSU. Coach Black went to the Rams. Coach Kenneth Killstrap, our original DB, one of our original DB coaches. He went to his alma mater, Middle Tennessee, and now he's at UAB. One of the other original DB coaches, Brandon Sharp, he's now a defensive assistant with Purdue. So the list goes on. And Alex Jackson, his first original OL offensive line offensive coordinator, co-offensive coordinator, left, went to become an offensive analyst for Tennessee, and I believe he came back to Alabama State. So you see there's at least 10 other people who have gone on to other jobs at other universities that, based on their profile and their level of play, us being at FCS, went to at least the FBS level, a group of 5 at the very least. So in the back of your mind, you're thinking, hey, I'm 42, 43, where's my opportunity? So that's another breadcrumb. And the thing that I worked on today a little bit, while we're here, the case for an extension or an increase in salary. And it's something I told y'all I wanted to add to this because I thought it was critical, was that it's something that crystallized when I saw something last night, that he's been in the same salary since he signed his original contract. And my understanding, at least from the reporting of the Tallahassee Democrat, his extension in 2021 did not include a salary increase. But yet he has gone, 22-2, maybe 23-2 if you include the SWAC championship games, since being in the SWAC. He's had 4 straight playing seasons of 9+ wins. And in my opinion, it could have been 5 if 3 plays would have gone differently in 2018, his first season, versus Jackson State, versus Bethune, and versus Howard. So, we're looking at an overall record. I believe it was 43-13 or 42-13. I just looked at the number, but I don't recall it right. But it's something like that. Basically, almost a 750 or better winning percentage since he came to FAMU. Has not had a salary increase. And considering where he brought the program from, coming off a 1-10 season from Alex Woods last season, and he hasn't had a salary increase in 6 years, and the magnitude to which he's brought this program, and the other thing that you can't really quantify but should be dialed in, the community impact that he's had. He won 2019 Tallahassee Democrat Person of the Year. He's been a strong advocate against gun violence. He has energized the FAMU program, and I have a lot more words in here. I don't want to, but in terms of a qualitative impact upon the FAMU community and the Big Bend as a whole, that plus his on-field accolades would seemingly merit a salary increase, or at least having a discussion. And at first, and I got, corrected last night, but at first I was thinking, I might have done the same thing, like, hey, let's wait till the end of the season, and see what the championship, how things turn out for 2023. But then upon reflection, when I saw what I saw, I was like, well, you know what? If you look at the depths to which the program has come from, and it speaks to your point a little bit, Bryan, about having 3 ADs, and we get that, what's the word? Not amnesia, but you don't get that collective knowledge. And we go from John Eason, interim Mike Smith, and then VP AD Sykes. I'm sorry, and VP AD Gaucher, and then Sykes. So then we actually have 4.
Well, then
so then
you had Michael Smith.
Yeah, I include Michael Smith, but you lose a little collective knowledge and memory there that. And I know people have followed the program, but unless you were really following it during the Alex Wood era and how things just didn't seem to go well, and it was a continuation of everything seemingly either treading water or going on a downturn since Joe Taylor left, you don't understand the depth from which Simmons brought this program. And then to not have, to have the same salary, because I don't know everything going on in the background, but they have the same salary for 6 years when you go from 1-10 and being, pretty much at the valley of the program in its entire existence, 100+ year existence. And then to cap it off with a SWAC championship, 12-1, number 1 defense, number 5 at this point from the last coaches poll, and to do all that and to, I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but to not have had what we know, and it could have been private, but to what we know of not having an increase in salary just based on performance, not to mention the intangibles in terms of community impact. That's another reason, probably, I'm speculating, but I'm just laying this out, why we're here. Now going forward.
Hold on, can I jump
yes.
in because I think this is relevant to what you're asking. EA is asking, how can we go year after year not paying people their contractually obligated money? EA, great question.
Yes, and I agree.
Send that email to Dr. Larry Robinson. Send that letter to Dr. Larry Robinson in Lee Hall. And then also now CC it to VP AD Tiffany Dawn Sykes.
As well as the trustee chair.
Exactly. The trustee chair, the new one.
We got a new chair.
We got a new chair. So
with the other piece of that, Bryan, is that you don't want to throw people under the bus or organizations on the bus. But if there are DSOs that were supposed to make contributions in order to meet the obligations, and if they haven't built the infrastructure such that they have a continuous fundraising component in order to meet the obligations, then they got to call them on the carpet too. I don't know who does what, but the fact of the matter is that Coach Simmons and the coaches, and for all we know, all the coaches have signed our contractual obligations based on the salary. And if we're coming up short, then that kind of contribute. if you can't get a raise, but if you're not even getting what you're supposed to get, then you're not going to get a raise. But then it begs the question about how we do business and how we need to do better. Now, reasons for optimism, because I don't want to leave this all out, and this is all in the document. The first thing is the events of this past weekend. That shows when you, like Kenya said, you lay out a vision plan, actionable items, people are going to step to the bat. Then, and that happened this weekend. And that's where I asked Mr. Johnson, how can we be more proactive? And it goes back to my first point. When we saw that Coach Simmons got hired December 2017, I know me and Kelvin and a few other people had discussions in a separate forum. He's not going to be here long, especially if we believe he's going to be the coach that we brought him here to be. And he checks off some or all of these incentives in the contract with his age, his acumen, and ambition. He is not going to be here long. And it kind of goes to my third point, which I'm going to get to. And I know Dr. Cavill and others have seen it because I posted it way back on the MEAC Fan Zone forum. Actually, I get to it now. But this past weekend shows what we can do when we put our effort into it. And if we do it proactively versus reactively, we could be in even better position to make sure we either retain coaches or, going to my second point, what I call the launching pad cradle of coaches. And this, we talked about this back in 2007 when Reuben Carter was let go, was that the paradigm now, we don't have coaches like Coach Gaither and Coach Robinson who are going to go from age 25 until they go home to see the Lord at the same position. These coaches in our society is very transactional and very, I want to say nomadic, but we'll go from job to job and looking for promotion. So in 2007, before we hired Coach Taylor, we talked about in a private forum that we need to fashion our HBCUs, and I was thinking FAMU specifically, but there are others that are in a similar position in terms of attractiveness, fashion it after what the Mid-American Conference schools did in the early 2000s, and the mid-majors continue to do, mid-majors in basketball. They always have turnaround coaches who, like for 2 years, might get an upset of March Madness, might have like a Northern Illinois in the mid-2000s, have a star player or two and knock off somebody like an Oklahoma or a Florida State in the Orange Bowl or the Fiesta Bowl. Next thing you know, their coach is the next hot thing, and the Power Five that's down us luck for a short period of time is looking for some energy, plugs that coach. If we fashioned our athletic departments in a similar fashion to be that swift and deft to be able to identify young talent and promote ourselves and promote the coaches, that, hey, you can get there from here, which is a model that our team, our school has adopted for Isaiah Land, Xavier Smith, and Marquise Bell in terms of getting to the NFL. Why not do the same for coaches? And I know we're wishing Coach Simmons well and not wishing him any ill will. But the thing is, it's like, well, hey, if you're a young coach and you want to get there from here, FAMU is set up to do so. Now we need to do that. And we need to make sure our processes, procedures, and our paradigms, our mentality from the athletic department and the fans, not casting aspersions or throwing stones at the coach for bouncing. But hey, he went from our school to now 3 years later, he's in the national championship game. He came from FAMU. We do that for the students. We do that for the athletes in the NFL. Why can't we do that for the coaches? But we need to set ourselves up mentally and structurally in the athletic department to take advantage of that. So that was the concept we talked about 15, 16 years ago. And I think we've gotten better because we've had younger ADs and a shift in mentality not to expect a coach to coach for life. But we still need to structure it and even promote. And yeah, you might say, well, that might encourage a school to come take our coach. But if a young coach who's looking to go further along says he can come to FAMU for 3 or 4 years, and you spoke to it earlier, and even Vaughn spoke to it earlier on the live show this afternoon, that coaches aren't nowadays, the youth and coaches, even some of the older coaches, with the exception of Saban and a few others, aren't looking to stay there 10 plus years unless they're at the top of the mountain. But anybody looking to climb to the top is looking to use a stepping stone. So why not fashion ourselves and counter the narrative that HBCUs are dead-end jobs, which was the narrative at the time when we started talking about this in 2007, was that, okay, we can only look at a certain amount of coaches because the perception is right or wrong. You get stuck at HBCU, you don't get any progression. Nobody looks at you. Well, we've had a few opportunities in both football and basketball that have bucked that trend, but you have to embrace it and make sure your department is set up for it in terms of identifying young talent when the coach goes, and, and when the coach is looking, not that you want him to leave, but if you promote him to a certain degree and put things in him or her in place in order to make that ascension, he or she can speak well of your program, and that I didn't feel inhibited, I felt supported. And the other component of that is making sure that you have suitable talent in the athletic department and in the administration that can identify someone who's going to be an up and coming star. Now, we did that with Coach Simmons, and I believe the other day, Kelvin, when I was looking at the video of last week, you said Coach Eason made that call because he had an experience at Florida State and he knew what to look for. Well, we need more of that so you can identify and continue to promote people who will be young stars and say, I got my start at such and such. And even last year, I think when off script went to, is it last year, 2 years ago, when he went to the SEC media days and he asked the coach about his start at South Carolina State, and he got some props for that. But that coach got his start, or at least had some of his formative things at South Carolina State, and he can reflect back upon it and speak upon well about his time at South Carolina State because that was his quote unquote launching pad. Third thing. The third thing was the autonomy of the VPAD role. So this is things to look forward to. We'll have to see if that actually happens, because we know how things go down, and we've seen it with Texas Southern, and we've seen it in the past with FAMU. But VPAD Sykes did, as far as we know, made the call with our women's basketball coach. So if she's asked the autonomy, she can either set us on a course to continue doing well, or it's going to set us back. But that autonomy, at least to some degree, cuts out the red tape and bureaucracy that inhibits identifying people and creating fiascos that don't reflect well on the administrations at HBCUs, which is another thing we've been fighting. Either you get stuck in a dead-end job, or you get all this undue influence and everybody trying to be a chief and nobody wanting to be, a worker bee in making the decision for hiring a coach. I can understand everyone wants some input, those who have influence and those who are stakeholders, but sometimes it gets a little prohibitive. And so whatever she's empowered to do, whatever that may be, we don't know. We'll see, because we know football is typically king at HBCUs with few exceptions. We'll see what she's empowered to do, what decisions she's allowed to make in terms of selecting candidates, presenting candidates for approval. So that could be a positive, but that's dependent on how much range she's given. But more or less, that's, what I'm saying, how we ended up here and going forward, what we can do. But I think the things that we showed this weekend in terms of the financial fundraising with a plan, and hopefully countering some narrative, and we have to be held true to it as well. Counting the narrative of like, oh, why am I sending this money in? They can't be trusted with it. Counting the narrative of you can't get there from here in terms of our athletic departments, and countering the narrative and setting up the infrastructure so that the ADs are empowered to make a choice and to live and die by that choice and be held accountable for it, instead of having board interference, powerful booster behind the closed doors interference, all this stuff that inhibits a smooth process. And that's all I got. But it's in much more detail in the document. But all those things. But in terms of Coach Simmons going to Duke, I'm not sure why anybody would be surprised. He's young, ambitious, and there are other components in his ambition. Probably the lack of, as far as we know, discussion on salary, since he's had the same salary for 6 years. And I know for some of us, if we had the same salary for 6 years in our positions, we'd be bucking tables and everything. So I don't know why we expect him to do any different, especially bringing the program for where it was. And the other thing, in terms of the booster organs and DSOs, I think great job funding the money. But one of my long-term challenges has been understanding whose function is what. And that's
Thank
kind of the reason why I asked Mr. Johnson, Curtis
Curtis.
Johnson, because asking about the money, like the 138 was strictly NA, and then there may be other pockets. Okay, if there's an organization that's dedicated to not necessarily one sport, but one
Athletics. There is.
well, not athletics, but say maybe athletics, but say even if there's one that's okay, we're doing fundraising for facilities. Okay, we're doing fundraising for recruiting or something along those lines. A clear understanding of who is doing what, because I think that also contributes, that what I call market confusion contributes to folks feeling like, well, what's being done with the money? I just gave to that organization. Now this organization asking me for money. But if they have two different purposes and it's not clear, then the average donor is going to feel like, they're bleeding me dry, and I don't know what it's being used for. And the organization may have two different purposes, or they may have the same purpose, which is redundant, and we're sending money to two different people and not understanding what's going on, and then feeling like we're getting sucked dry and being, taken advantage of. So that clarity needs to happen as well.
Which is why, Marcus, I challenge Curtis to be the catalyst for exactly that. I totally agree with you that we don't have the structure or the expertise or the care, frankly, from internal administrative sources to do anything, which is why all the things you presented, as you talked about, we've discussed for 15, 16 years now. I mean, the stuff with the P3, the strategic plans for athletics, we've read and reviewed all that stuff. Work has been done. Right now, there's a group, First Strike, that is trying to do some things with athletics that will put money in their coffers as well as help with some facility stuff. But at some point, we have to move this stuff forward, and we have to have people in position, or we have to force people into positions that are leaders that will make some of this stuff happen. My problem is not that we don't know, not that we don't have ideas, not that it is not being presented. It's just not being acted upon, and that is frustrating as heck.
One of the questions that came from I put it out there on the mailbag, wanting to get people's questions from I am that Rattler asked this question, and the question starts with, what is the AD's plan for the rest of the sports? Men's basketball. Will she continue to ignore issues until they blow up in her face? I don't know what issues you're referring to. Maybe compensation. What is the plan to replace revenue that she has chosen to get rid of? OBC, Peak Sports. Peak Sports is still around. OBC, okay. Does she plan to make Coach Riz permanent? I think that's a question for the AD, for the coach, for the new coach,
football coach,
the head football coach. But the bigger question: what is the AD's plan for the rest of the sports? That is what we're talking about when we talk about presenting a vision. We are at a point now, FAMU, where after we solve this coaching hire, we need a vision. Kelvin has said it time and time again that we need a vision. We understand what a VP Sykes was originally brought here to do, right? Straighten out the compliance stuff. That's been done. And I believe, as you saw Coach Simmons' tweet, APR numbers went up. Now, this is the year of money. I keep telling y'all this. I told you this 2 days ago. This year is about money. The strategic plan needs to be presented. She, in this first month of, they have a thing called the State of the Union, right? Don't they? Then the nation, the president creates the State of the Union. What month is that usually in? Usually in January, right? Okay. We need a state of Rattler athletics. We need the AD, the VP, and AD, Tiffany Dawn Sykes, in this first month of January to present a strategic plan that tells us where Florida A&M athletics is going. Because if you all want to maintain confidence in all the other things that are going to come down the road over the next 11 months, if we don't have a strategic plan and hear about it, how are you going to get behind it? How are we able to go to that national alumni convention and activate individuals in different groups if we don't have or know what the plan is? So that is a major task that is in front of her. What is the
And,
a lot
and,
of,
and, and this is the
it's not
time for it.
and it's not hers alone.
Oh,
I
no.
would tell you, I'm not going to peel back the onion all the way, but I would tell you, and I can't say this enough. The AD gets faulted for a lot of stuff at all HBCUs, but particularly FAMU and the staff in athletics. But our issue is systematic and is above the AD office.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
And we got to push. That's why I talk about uniting, and I'm saying we got to push the trustees, the foundation board, the foundation VP,
The people
the
above her.
the CFO, because
Yes.
all of them control certain segments that impact athletics.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And this is the time to do it because, and this kind of ties back into what I was saying about the launching pad, cradle of coaches concept, is that we're just coming off of 4 titles across 4 different sports. We've had our coach, the best one we've had probably since Billy Joe. I want to say probably the best one we've had since Billy Joe. And, in a short amount of time, in terms of his record. But I won't go there. But capitalize on all this PR. So it's unfortunate from our standpoint, selfishly, that Coach Simmons went to Duke. But the fact that a Power 5 school wanted your coach, that's a marketing tool. We've won 4 championships across 4 different sports within the last 12 months: football, cross country, baseball, and tennis. We've had 2 in volleyball in the previous seasons and being in the SWAC. Now is the time, it's very ripe because you've given Rattler Nation a taste of that championship elixir. So, if VP Sykes comes up with a strategic, with a state of the nation and a strategic plan, and in her plan, I don't know to what degree she has I don't know what's the word I want to use. She has the boldness to put something in her plan that puts pressure on her supervision to say, I want to do this. And then, whether she discusses with them or not, it's out there. And then there's going to be, to some degree, some dotted, some held accountable, not only her, but the support that she needs to get it done. So even if she wants to put pressure because she's some initiatives we don't know, if there's some initiatives that got swatted down for whatever reason, and she puts it in the strategic plan, okay, now you're committed because you've spoken it. And so now the administration needs to support it. Even if she does that, I'm not saying she has or hasn't, but if you put some stretch goals in the vision, then either, we have to support it or we're not. But what we're looking for are stretch goals because once again, we've got a taste of four trophies and titles, and I'm sure the other sports are hankering for it because I think we were second place in golf. I think there's another sport where
Volleyball.
we were second place in volleyball this year, and we got a taste. We got a surprise, maybe not surprise to the coach, but surprise in cross country. So there are other sports that are probably just as hungry to get championships. And the vision to get there, she can develop it, but she needs support from above. So even if she needs to kind of put them out there by making a commitment that we're going to do this, then hey, then they have no choice but to do it. Almost like when the football players wrote the letter to Dr. Robinson about what's going on with compliance. Yeah, it will get you fired. It will get you fired, but I don't know to what degree.
Hey,
that's what I'm saying. Her
hey.
appetite for boldness.
Well, let me just say this, and I know we got to go to the next segment, but Bryan, we got to come back to this after that segment. We got to go a little longer because to some of the things that people are saying in the chats, we got to get to some of the things that we've heard and discussed about the process and this whole thing. I think it's important to put some context on it. But but Marcus, man, you knocking it out the park, brother, with what you're saying.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. We'll come back. We're going to answer more questions regarding excuse me, this the search for a coach, just the state of athletics as a result. But again, we got to pivot because this upcoming weekend is the start of basketball season. You know, actually, this is important. Not only do you have the start of basketball season coming up, but you've also got the start of I believe you got the second half of the indoor season.
Cross country. Indoor track. Yeah.
And then you also, right around the corner, have got
baseball
tennis,
and softball.
Baseball and softball. So a lot is happening while we're getting into this. So, you know, we cover all things FAMU athletics. And I know the conversations get hot and heavy. So, and I know some of you guys wish we could just talk about this for 3 hours, but you know, we don't have that kind of time in the evening. So we're going to take a break, come back. We've got Olivia Antilla, former FAMU women's basketball player. Of course, Live for Hoops is where you can find her on Twitter and YouTube. And we're going to talk about the preseason for our men and women's team, which is starting on Saturday at Bethune-Cookman for the men and women. So you guys keep the conversation going. Keep it respectful in the chat. You know, I'm not, you know, I'm moderating, but I'm being loose with it. So, you know, keep it respectful. You guys in the chat room, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, and we'll come back right after this break with more. You're watching the O&G StrikeZone right here on the Black College Sports Network.
We're back. It's time for the 2024 Urban NerdCon. Join us in Atlanta, Georgia, April 26th through the 28th at the Cortland Grand Hotel. Special guests include Underworld creator Kevin Grievous, Gary Gray from Fairly Odd Parents, from Nickelodeon, Giovanni Samuels, the Science Machine Michael Green, the Sci-Fi Sisters, and from Spaceballs and Star Trek Voyager, Tim Russ.
Hi, I'm Tim Russ. Join me April 26th through the 28th at the Cortland Grand Hotel in Atlanta, Georgia for the Urban NerdCon. Our heroes, our villains, our stories, everyone con. I'll see you there. Live long and prosper.
Visit theurbannerdcon.net to get your buy one, get one free badges before the price increases. Remember, our heroes, our villains, our stories, everyone's con. See you there.
We're going to Florida, and we're going to bring you back a victory to Jackson. God to y'all!
What'd you say now, Chuck? Man, you a plumb fool, man.
All right, welcome back to the O&G StrikeZone. Couldn't go without a little taste of Chuck there. Plum fool. All right, coming up, we've got Livia. And if you don't know who Liv is, this is the accolades. FAMU women's basketball player from 14 to 16. Look at the numbers. She knows her stuff. Straight baller, baby. Top 10 and count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different categories, including leading the team in scoring both years that she was at FAMU. Nobody did it better. Well, there may have been a few, but you know, look, she did it really well when she was there. So we got Liv coming up here, so that way you guys better know. Let me make sure I bring her in. Liv, hey. How you doing, Liv?
Good. How are you guys?
What's up, Liv?
Doing well.
Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year.
All right. It never gets old when you see those stats and pictures, does it, Liv? Never gets old, does it?
I'm definitely a person who doesn't like the attention, so I get super like I shy away from that, but I do appreciate it to let people know because I've been getting questioned lately on why should anyone listen to me. So
What?
thank you for that.
Hey, look, you've been coming strong with strong takes pretty much since we've gotten to know you and since you kind of come into this space. So definitely appreciate you. Let's get a couple things out of the way here as we come into the women's basketball season and the men's season starting. We got to give some props and flowers to our SWAC player of the week. Most recently, Ariana Grizzle, who had a great game against North Florida. 31 points, 3 rebounds, 3 of 6 from the arc, 57% from the field. She was on fire. You got a chance to watch that performance, Liv. What was your take on Ariana?
I mean, she's a straight scorer. I'm glad she's getting this moment now for her to truly show her talents. Last year, she was in more of a backup scoring role, whereas this year now she's been given the ultimate green light and she's showing not only her ability to score, but her versatility, her ability to get to the rim. Her pull-up jump shot it's really, really good. She deserved that. And Kariah Beck deserved it. Either way, if it would have flip-flopped for who got what, both those two were very deserving. But Grizzle, she held it down. Like she's been holding it down, but that game she went crazy and did her thing. She looked really good that game.
Okay. As we go into this upcoming season, the ladies, we'll start with the ladies, always ladies first. The ladies are going into the start of the season with a 1-10 record, but by my count, unofficially, I counted 4 games in which in the non-conference were winnable games that they lost by a possession or 2. Losing at Sam Houston by 3, home to South Alabama by 3, on the road at Detroit Mercy by 6, getting outscored by 18-9, had a lead going into the fourth quarter. And then, of course, that game that Ariana had a good night at, we lost that game in overtime. What's your evaluation of what you've seen thus far from the team in the non-conference?
Yeah, so those were the 4 games I had jotted down as kind of like non-conference disappointments because those were 4 games that were extremely winnable and games that they were leading at one point. Towards the end of the games, in all of 4 of them, it was just poor decisions for most of it, especially, for instance, during Detroit Mercy. They were only down 2, and instead of just attacking the basket, they literally shot like 4 threes in a row. They shot a 3, missed, got it back, dribbled out to the 3-point line, shot another 3, brought it back. There was so much time. It was just in close games, they can't close them out. And also, they don't have additional consistent scores. It wouldn't even matter who the additional 2 are, but on a nightly basis, they don't even have 2 people that they can consistently count on. Now, that's the key word, consistently. I don't care if someone had 20 points before, if the next game they have 4 and the next game they have 6. Grizzle can't do it alone. She's showing that she can score, that she can lead. And even coach took her off the point, which I've been saying to do all year. Let her off the ball, let her be a true scorer, find someone else to do it. But now they need other people to step up. And that's, if they don't fix that, and it's really unfortunate that they're going on the road to play Bethune their first game, but they need to fix that problem. Someone else has to give a consistent 10 to 12. Another person like give 8 to 10. Like she needs help. That's really what it comes down to. She needs help, and they need to have better decision making.
Who could that person be? I mean, do you see?
Delancey.
Okay.
I had to jump in. Go ahead, Liv.
It is one of them. One of them. She has been, from a basketball standpoint, she is very inconsistent. She'll get extremely hot and the next game be extremely cold. They moved her to coming off the bench, and I thought that was a great move because the game before, that's when she went she had an outlandish percentage. But then now that FAMU has moved to the smaller lineup, which we've talked about before, and works to their benefit, she's back in. She's been sprinkled in and out of the lineup, and she's gone back to being inconsistent. I think they need to just move her back to coming off the bench, and then start Hendricks, because I will say versus North Florida, I saw a lot more confidence from her. I think she's still getting adjusted to the college play. She's not the player who's going to come in, the freshman who's going to come in and give you 20 right away. Like, she's adjusting. I think she can give them that 6 to 8. She can defend in the post. And if it's not Delancey, then Sylvester needs to give something. And Zubarat needs to stay on the 3-point line and shoot. Catch and shoot. Catch and shoot. Catch and shoot.
That's it.
Like,
don't do nothing else, because she's a turnover machine if she do anything else on the offense. Catch and shoot. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Liv.
That's all. If she would just stand there and catch and shoot, she could easily give 12 to 15 a night. Like, keep it simple. You're a shooter. Just be ready when Grizzle drives. She jump stops in the middle. Be ready for the kick out and hit that shot.
One of the names I didn't hear you mention is actually leading the SWAC in minutes per game, and that's Shawnee Gilbert. I mean, she's leading the SWAC with 37 minutes a game, right behind. Well, actually, she's ahead of Zay Green over at UAPB. And then, of course, Grizzle is in that top 5 with about 32 minutes a game. What's your take on Nashani Gilbert?
The thing about Nashani Gilbert, and I've said this on Twitter, X, I don't care what she gives on offense because she does everything else that no one on this team does. She's the one who dives on the floor, consistently takes charges, is playing the most minutes, she does not take breaks. So if on offense, she's being smart with her shot taking, because at the beginning of the season, that was a big question mark for me with her. Her shot selection was poor. It has improved since the first game. I don't care. She'll give you like 4 to 8, but the fact that she gives this team everything else, I don't fault her for not being able to give us 12 to 15. Someone else has to, because she legit does everything that does not show up in the stat sheet.
Ditto.
Who do we need to see? Who does this team need to see an improvement from in order to have a successful season? Where do we need to see? Obviously, you've gone through a lot of the main players there: Grizzle, Gilbert, Sylvester. But I feel like, is there somebody there that you think is missing, or hey, we need to see this person come back or show up and to really kind of change the trajectory of this team?
To be completely honest, and I've said this online, it's not going to happen. If the only thing, if Skylar was healthy, she seems to be very, like, last year she battled injuries. This year she's battling injuries. The reason I like her is because she can give, like, a bigger body on defense. But what I've seen from the other players, they don't have what you can teach. Like, you can't teach. You can't teach aggressiveness. You can't teach that dog mentality. You either have it or you don't. And this is based on what they've shown me. Do they have, positives and negatives like every player? Yes. But unfortunately for FAMU, the small lineup is what works best for them. And they're going to have to run with that and figure it out. And there's games they're just going to they're going to be extremely undersized, but I still think for the offensive flow and spacing on the floor and the ability to press, that works better for them. And I think those 5 guards and the bigger, like Hendricks isn't even big, but she's about 5'10", and then Gilbert's 5'10", and Delancey's like 5'10". They need to figure it out. Like, I've seen them battle down there, but that's just my opinion. I don't see any other production coming from players that we have seen thus far this season.
What are you gonna add, Kelvin?
So I totally agree with Liz, but it's not one person, but as a team, there's 2 things I think they could do. Everybody got to step up a little bit, not because they're competitive, right? So we don't need nobody to, all of a sudden average 10, which they ain't capable of. But what can happen is the guard play, and outside of Grizzly, I'm talking about turnovers specifically, and I'm talking about Super Rat specifically. If people understand their role and what they're good at, that can help this team. And then because we've got to play a small lineup, pressing and getting easy baskets, I think is really key. I think coach should try that a little more. I know you worry about rebounding it and fouls and stuff, but to have a puncher's chance, you're gonna have to take some risks with this team because you just don't have the numbers in terms of size, in terms of scoring, and athleticism overall to play teams straight up. So you gotta muddy the game up and try to get some easy baskets.
What other keys to success in the conference season are you looking for this team, Liv?
Sorry, I'm scrolling down to my notes.
No, that's all right.
Kelvin hit, like I said, Grizzle can't do it alone. She can't. So someone, regardless of who it is, on a nightly basis, they need other people to step up and contribute. And yes, she takes shots, but I think she'll maybe have like 2 bad shots a game. And I'm like, we could have done without that, but I'm not really mad about it. They can't afford to not get the 50-50 balls. Like, they just don't have the extensive talent to get away with that. Like, teams that don't have the offensive power, you cannot take breaks on defense. You have to limit your turnovers. The 50-50 balls have to be yours. They need to stay out of foul trouble. Like, they're kind of on a tight leash because they do not have, like, they have one player who you can be like, go give me 20. And they just don't have the personnel in order to make mistakes. So from them, I just, like Calvin said, I would just want to see a little bit more. I thought I saw that for most of the North Florida game. It was the turnover bug that completely switched. They were up, and then they came out in the 4th quarter, and it was turnover. That's the momentum that switched that whole game, was they started turning it over. But if they can limit turnovers, do the little things, keep the rebounding close, it's going to be just looking at the teams of the SWAC. I think they can be competitive rebounding with most teams, but there's some where unless they're sending 2 at a specific person, they just got to keep it close and within reach. But those are kind of my keys to success for them. I honestly think seeing all these other teams, because I actually watch, if they play this right, they could possibly push for that 8th seed, but they cannot afford to, like, they have to sweep Elkhorn. They play them twice. They only play Valley once, and they only play Texas Southern once. Those are 4 games they cannot lose. If they go those 4 and then, they beat a PV once, or they split with Grambling or Southern, they really have a chance to make that push, but they just have to be clean. And like Calvin said, know your role, know what you're good at, and don't play outside of that. Like, just know your strengths.
And I want to show this to everybody because obviously you just mentioned it. Here's the preseason rankings from this is before the non-conference started. And as you can see, we are preseason 10th. So you go back again. You mentioned who are those keys again when you look at this, and how does this team, because you were talking about how this team can sneak into that 8th spot, maybe even a 7th spot. I don't know if I'm being optimistic there, but Again, repeat that again, Liv, in comparison to what you see, and who within this preseason poll is sort of right where they thought they were predicted, and who kind of has maybe dropped a little based on this.
It's about right.
So
Is
Go ahead.
I'm like, besides the last two, maybe even the last three, I understand why people put FAMU at 10. I understand that because these preseason polls don't put into account transfers, freshmen, like none of that. It's based on like what you saw and what you know.
Right.
But if they need to sweep Alcorn, they have to beat Texas Southern. They have to beat Valley. I think they could split with PV. They could even Alabama State has two really good post players, but their guard play has not shown me anything significant to where I'm like, oh, they're such a threat. I think they can split with them. I think this whole list, this is preseason, but based on what I've seen, this whole list, I would not rank any of those teams besides the last two where they currently are.
Okay. So what is your so I'm putting you on the spot here. Who's your 8? Who's your 8? Who are the 8 teams that Olivia says will make it into the SWAC tournament?
So for sure, I have UAPB, Jackson State, Southern, Bethune, Grambling, Alabama A&M, and then those last two spots, I don't have Alcorn making it. Those last two spots, based on what I've seen, are really up for grabs. Just based on what I've seen from personnel, because like PV, they legit play 15 people. They average over 12 minutes. It's hard for them to find a flow. They don't have huge posts, so our lineup can work well against them. Alabama State, like they're coming off of losing 35 points a game with their 2 players who graduated. Like they have not found an offense that works for them. They're also averaging 28 turnovers a game. I just, for sure, for me, and this is no tea, no shade to these teams, but I don't have Valley making it. I don't have Texas Southern making it, and I don't have Alcorn making it. So if FAMU can just be steady and compete and at least split with teams, they can possibly make that push for the 8th.
Hey, like the football team used to defend Bragg. Well, we got to defend Lawson. We got to defend the Pit.
Yeah. There's that schedule there as you see it. In terms of what'd you say?
I said they start out with a really first 4 very hard games. So they're going to be tested.
That's 4 your 6. That's 4 your 4 of your top 16. Yeah. Hell, might be 4 of the top 4 of the top 5 right there in the first 4 weeks, right?
Yes, honestly, yeah.
Yikes. Well, that good tune-up. They gotta be competitive there. We've got Southern at home, Grambling home, and then we travel to UAPB, and then by you get to that time where maybe when you go to Valley, hopefully you're still healthy. Right. I think that's always a key. Can you still be healthy after playing those 4 games?
That is right. And not Valley has a player who is really good. Shadiman McKnight. So that's not gonna be a slat game. Like she brought in a whole new team besides one player. And so I don't think they're gonna get walked over, but I feel like Valley will win a game this year and they'll shock somebody and walk away with a W. It just FAMU better make sure it's not them because
yeah. I didn't see that. How many times did we play Valley this year?
Only one.
Oh, Jesus. And that's on the road. Okay. So we got to make sure we go to Valley and get that win. All right. Flipping it over to the men. The men coming out of the non-conference are technically 2-9, but really, if you count them against just Division I opponents, 1-8. Who are some of the spotlight players that have impressed in the non-conference on the men's side?
Yeah, so I'll start with FAM. For them specifically, I think before this last stretch of games, I would have put KJ Parker in there. But last game he went 1-11. The game before he went 0 for 10. So he's kind of fallen off for me because I'm like,
freshman fatigue, maybe.
It might be because
inconsistent.
He's playing a crazy amount of minutes. He needs to find his footing in the college pace and the rhythm with the team. But I will say Keith Lamar has been the most consistent player for FAMU. I've really liked what he's given this team. And I mean, I'll say that. And then Hetty from Bethune-Cookman, he's been awarded Impact Player of the Week and Player of the Week multiple times. And Madlock from Bama State, I like the way he plays. Obviously, coach's son, but he earns his minute. Someone said, I'm sorry, I was reading the comments.
That's what I was laughing at.
Come on, Demetri. Come on now. Stop it. Don't do that.
And then from JSU, we have Ken Evans Jr., who's predicted Player of the Year, and I think he will get that. Dozier from Grambling. No one talks about Grambling because they've only won 3 games in the non-conference, but I mean, they snuck out that championship last year. So, and then Joseph from Southern, he's been he's been their kind of scoring power. And then from UAPB, I have Milton, Williams, and French. All 3 of them have been playing out of their minds. They're 3 of the top 5 in the SWAC for scoring. UAPB, they got some scorers on their team.
All right, here's the men's now you think about the season that we've seen, Liv, and what you've seen in this preseason. I mean, I'm like, wow, okay, FAMU 11th, but really, when I look at the top, I'm like, really? I think people have underestimated Jackson State and Southern, who were preseason 4 and 5. I think they are better than that, and I don't know if Texas Southern is as good as everybody thinks they are. What's your take on this preseason rankings, and how does FAMU, where do you see FAMU? How does FAMU get into that 8 spot or better?
So always, like, the preseason's just based on what people saw last year. And because Texas Southern made that crazy run, people are like, oh, okay, let's put them at 1. But like, as you see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams got a first place vote. So it wasn't like unanimous, like how Jackson State for the women, they had the bulk of the first place votes. From what I've seen, I do think people underestimated Jackson State and Southern. For me personally, they are the 2 top teams right now based on what I've seen. And I want people to really understand that even in losses, I can see things. I use like my knowledge of the game, my basketball IQ to see like how they're going through the loss and what it looks like.
Wait a minute, say that again, Liv, because hold on, let me come back to you, because like you said, you got people questioning you. You played the game. Say that again, Liv. Say that again for people in the back who might have went to go get a cup of coffee or a drink. Say that again.
So I always use my basketball knowledge, my basketball IQ that I've used from playing and coaching in order to analyze a game. I'm not watching for fun most of the time, unless it turns to like we're blowing them out. I'm watching from a lens of analyzing, and what I'm seeing is the point guard insensibly turning the ball over at a high rate. Is the post player still getting great position and dominating? Is the rebounding margin still close, although they're losing? what do their perimeter shooters look like? Are they getting off good shots, or are they just jacking it up and being volume shooters? It's more than just wins and losses. And that's why the non-conference season for the SWAC and even the MEAC, it's so misleading to how teams are going to be when it comes to actually playing, because the money games, they just kill everything. And so when you're playing like Mississippi Valley, they played Gonzaga, and then the next night they went and played like another ranked team, like back to back to back to back nights. But Valley is perfectly placed. I want to be really clear with that. But for FAMU specifically, so this is what I said for men. The men's side of the SWAC, it's so different than the women's side, because everyone can look at the women's side and see kind of the two front running teams, because they have scores, they have players who are true posts at that 6'6" size. For men, the trend that I've been noticing is that it's going to come down to which team's big man is the most dominant. Every team, pretty much every single team, their best player is a scoring guard, and they're good. They can score. From Texas Southern, PJ Henry, and then from Jackson State, Ken Evans. From Southern, Joseph. From Prairie View, he's more of a forward, but what's his name? The fifth. I know he's the fifth. UAPB, their three people are their guards. I have yet to see, besides when O'Neal played in that Chris Paul HBCU Classic, and he's playing out of position because Jackson State's post player is injured still, there is no post that has impressed me on the men's side, including ours. And to them, it's not all their fault, because true posts can't get themselves the ball.
Right.
So that's a problem in themselves. If you as a team, and that comes from the coach, if you're not telling, and this is across the board, not just FAMU, but if you're not telling your guards to get your posts involved, that's a you problem. When them big, hungry men are running up and down the floor, 94 feet a game, banging their bodies, and you're not feeding them at least once, like you're not even giving them a touch or a look, a post player is going to get pissed. Like, I'm doing all this, I can't get a touch. So if FAMU, one, KJ Parker has to become back consistent. They need him to score. Like, they need him to score. They just do. And when he is on, he's on, but you can't be inconsistent. Going like 0 for 10 is crazy. And then the next game going 1 for 11. Like, I know that gym is open, because when I was there, it was always open. You're laughing. I'm like, all you had to do was say, I'm going to go shoot. Like, and so if they can when they've got their posts involved, they've looked well. That's what happened in the win versus Presbyterian. They got their post players involved. They were both getting touches. Like, and to me, FAMU's post players are not black holes. They're not players who every time they touch it, they have to go up. They can make reads. So they need to get them involved. And whichever team's big man is most dominant, I guarantee you, is the team that is going to come out on top at the end of the SWAC tournament, because there is not a single team yet with a big man that has been consistently dominant.
Go ahead,
Kelvin.
finish. I'm just letting Bryan know to come to me next.
You jump in there. Go ahead.
That has been consistently dominant. Like, it's a very guard-dominated conference on the men's side.
Go ahead, Kim.
Excellent analysis again. I totally agree. I got a question for Liz, because I have my own opinions about it, and it frustrates me watching our men's team specifically, but it does apply a little bit to the women's side too. If you have a team that is not very good in the half court, and you're not gonna feed your bigs in the post, then what kind of offense, what kind of style of play should you be doing? Because we're hard to watch at times in the half court. The men take a lot of bad shots. They got some players now, but they take a lot of bad shots, and they have some careless turnovers. So what's your input on that?
in my opinion, the men should be trying to speed up the game and get quick layups. Like, and it really comes down to, because they don't use their posts. I feel like if they went to them more, and this is just, basketball is so easy. The sooner you get your posts involved, the sooner the perimeter opens up. But instead, FAMU just likes the guards to shoot, drive into the paint, where you have a big 6'9", 7-footer who is not, I mean, they both shot maybe a few threes, if even that. Like, they primarily stay in the mid-range and the post. And if they don't want to speed up, then they need to do more pick and roll offense. The only reason why I seen that they've had shooters kind of step up and get into it, but pick and rolls are only effective if you have consistent shooters from the outside that demand that help side to stick to them. So it's just so hard.
Let me tell you guys something now. You guys are picking on our shooting, and I'm sitting here looking at the statistics in the conference, right? This is all non-conference. You know who the number 2 three-point field goal percentage team is in the SWAC? Us. FAMU. 34%, which is number 2 in the conference. Now, you know, you say what you say about shooting 34%, but hey, when we do shoot them, we're actually not that bad.
So you know what that stat tells me? Our conference suck. Our conference suck at shooting a 3. You got, like you said, something.
That shooting, it is. I'm like, where are the pure shooters at? Like, what's happening? But I was going to say, to your comment, I was also going to be like, where are they placed in the standings before conference play started? Because
that's all non-conference. So I mean, nobody conference starts on Saturday, so you know we'll see. But now there is a gap between first and second. Now UAPB's in first. They shoot the lights out. I mean, they've hit over 155 threes on the year. They shoot like 39%. You don't want to run against UAPB. I don't know how many times we played them this year, but when that team comes in the gym, they're jacking them. They're shooting them and they're making them.
Go ahead.
The other thing I was going to go to, the other stat that, you know, you talked about, Kelvin, you pointed out turnovers. Well, we're not statistically, we're not as bad as you think we are. We're actually we're second from the bottom in in terms of average per game, we actually only average 11.9, which is the third fewest turnovers per game in the conference.
If you contract, go ahead. Live and get you right.
I'm just giving the stats. Don't shoot the messenger.
I know stats can be super misleading, because the issue with FAMU's turnovers is they're always timely, or their turnovers, from what I've watched from their games, they almost always turn into the other team scoring. So even if another team has a higher turnover rate, what is the turnover to points ratio for their opponents?
Points off turnovers, right? That stat, unfortunately, is not immediately available here on swag.org. So
and let me add to that the fact that what we average per game.
Well,
so if you're only putting up 60 points per game, 11 turnovers is a hell of a lot.
65 points a game, second fewest output in the conference. Yes.
Yeah. But the one thing I was gonna add on the men's side real quick is that Bettis is still hurt. I think somebody asked. Yes, he's still out.
Still injured.
And I think he probably gonna be out most of January. He probably won't be back to February. We do have a former guard back, Jalen Spear, who's a true point, right? And can penetrate.
I thought he had transferred.
He did, and he transferred.
Yeah, he back. Okay. He back.
He was in the box score.
And what I would say is, and we've been saying this, and I don't know, and it's no need to hide from this. Everybody know this. I've never figured out why we don't play our shooter. And
stop it.
And I'm gonna call his name. I don't know. He's a lights out shooter. Sits. I mean, he transferred from the Big East. I mean, he has games where if you give him enough minutes, he goes to 20. It's proven. He has a history. He's won games I don't understand. I don't understand what he got against Stevens. I don't understand that.
I got, you know what? I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 5 guys who shoot better than him. So, you know, he who I shall not name. We got 5.
Shoot better than him in what?
From the 3-point arc, percentage wise.
On our team?
On our team. Yes, indeed.
This year.
Yes.
How many attempts does he have?
How many? Wait a minute. How many does he have? Him?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's right 3.
Come on, Bryan. Why you gonna try?
That's not statistically significant.
Why are you gonna try me like that?
Okay, so but
you know I go to all the games.
Well, you need to pay attention to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That was real shallow, man. I'm disappointed in you.
Look, I have a quick question. No, I guess for Kelvin and Liv. Now, listening to y'all going over the woes of the men's basketball team. What's changed?
Good question.
Because we got 2 big men, but we haven't used them like we haven't done the years past.
Mm-hmm.
We're not scoring, and we're turning the ball over. So what's different from this year to last year?
I'm gonna take a stab at it real quick. Since I was around that sport a lot when I was at FAMU, I don't know if we get as much from our assistant coaches as we did early on. I can tell you, Jared Stevens could coach, and he did a lot of extra stuff away from regular practice schedule and time, and he wasn't afraid to go to Coach McCullum during a game and suggest things. I don't see a lot of that going on now. So that's one thing I would guess is a difference. Outside of that, nothing.
He's got 2 coaches who've been there with him for a few years now, at least for about 4 seasons.
Yeah, they've been there, but I mean, I'm just saying.
All right.
I don't know what their contribution. You
Liv,
see our record.
What would you like to add? What has changed? Has anything changed, Liv?
I mean, I would say probably not from the 21-22 season. Like, the reason why I think people look at that season and they're like, oh my gosh, that was so great. And not to put everything on one player, but MJ Randolph ran that team. Like, let's be honest. It was his team. It was his program. Like, and then losing him, they just had, when you have a player like that and other players aren't used to coming into the spotlight, or they're used to the role of playing beside a great player. That's why last year they had I think a lot of the issues that they had was just losing, not having him there because he graduated, not having players. Players can claim they want that limelight, and then it's too bright for them. They can't step up. They get scared in the moment and they shy away from it.
It ain't but one Beyonce. Somebody got to be Destiny's Child.
Somebody got to be Michelle. Is that what you're trying to say? Come on,
that's what I'm saying.
Stop
that
it.
Still ain't bad. That still ain't bad.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Yeah, don't be talking bad about Michelle.
She ain't Bay. She ain't Queen Bee. She ain't Bay. That ain't talking bad.
Everyone can think they're a scorer and they're not. Like, I think what it comes down to this season is the way it looks while they're playing is there's no established roles. They're not using personnel to the best of their ability, because I'm sorry if I'm out there, because I like Grant. I like what he gives when he gets the ball. Like, that's a big body, like, down there. He's not a black hole. I like him. If I'm a guard on that team, and I have a basketball IQ, I'm getting him the ball. So it seems like, and that's no shade to those players, but the way they play is like they lack high basketball IQ. They're out there at times playing for themselves to get scores, and that's what leads to the poor shot selection. It's just a bunch of mess. But I think since MJ
As an analyst,
Damn,
it's a
man.
bunch of mess.
I'm just saying, like a snowball effect. It started when MJ graduated, like, and then they go into trying to develop these players up. But then, like, Coach came on here and he said we had an energy vampire who was ruining the locker room and he was sucking the life out of the whole program. So we can say that to last year. You had an energy vampire last year. And then this year, you have I'm just wondering what's the excuse now? Because you're not using your big man. You claimed you had shooters. They're not being used. And I'm giving KJ a break because he is a freshman. He's playing some of the biggest minutes, like as a freshman on this team. They lack leadership on the floor. They have the personnel to be good. They just don't play like it on a nightly basis.
Wow, you guys.
Yeah,
all right,
they say
a
a
couple
team
names.
takes.
Okay,
They say, hey, Bryan.
It
I was
is.
just gonna say they say the team takes the personality of their coach.
Mm-hmm.
So
all right.
that's all. You can go ahead.
You talked about a replacement for MJ. I'm gonna give you a name. How about Keith Lamar? 10th overall in the conference in scoring, 5th in the conference in rebounding, 4th in the conference in field goal percentage. I think that's a positive. There's a guy who averages 16 a game. You know, and you know, could he be that person? Maybe. I also would challenge you and give you, how about Coffee the third, Roderick Coffee the third, in terms of stats within the conference, 7th in terms of assists per game, and actually 2nd in assist to turnover ratio, with the 2nd best ratio. So maybe we can get, yeah, exactly. Maybe we can get production from a few guys, and defense. This team's got to get back to defending. I think when you go and look at the team stats defensively,
Hey, Bryan,
we allow a lot of points.
Bryan, you remember last year when we were only giving up like 59 points a game?
I forgot.
I mean, we were like
55, right? We
were dead last. We were sucking the dead last in Division One.
We're scoring 10 more points a game now, Kelvin. We're scoring 10 more points a game. We're also giving up about 25 more.
Half full, and I'm such a realist of what they're showing me, and you're just like, they do this, like you're.
That's what's frustrating, Liv. The reality is this team has pieces.
Mm-hmm.
They do.
If they could figure, if Coach could figure it out and rotate those pieces in correctly to their talent, they can make the tournament for sure.
Yeah.
But we all will be shocked if they do.
Yes, I think all of SWAC would be shocked if they do, besides Bryan.
Thank you. I'm not gonna be shocked.
Hey, last thing. The other thing they missing is, when you talk about that MJT, they missing leadership from on the team themselves, right? This team don't have a true leader, and that MJ team the year before, as well as when he was there, they had the year before MJ junior year, they had like 8 seniors or something like that, and those guys had played together because you had the COVID year. They had been together like 3 or 4 years. So that was special about that team. And you still had about MJ senior, you still had about 4 holdovers from that team. So they had leadership and guys who had played a lot of ball. This is a new team. So
all right. The season begins on Saturday, in Daytona Beach against Bethune. Liv's gonna make me give Bethune props because they are a good team, and I after that win, who they beat the other day, Liv, where Bethune actually looked really good in a win. Who they beat? Mercer.
They beat Mercer when Chanel Wilson hit the game winner against their 6'4" shot blocker.
Yeah, I saw that. So, look, we need Rattler Nation to get to the small gym in more gymnasium. How'd you do playing in that gym? Did you like that gym?
So it's so funny. I went back and I actually found my game when we played there. They had the band on that little tiny stage. They had the cheerleaders standing on that small little baseline. It was packed. It's because of the size of the gym. It's probably one of the best environments to play in because it gets full super fast. Their fans are loud. It's a fun environment. It's very hectic. So I couldn't believe they had the band up there. I was like, are you trying to blow our eardrums out in this little tiny gym? But this is a game you should look forward to when you're playing Bethune. This is it's a huge game. And so I hope they come out knowing that history of knowing don't take this lightly. And I hope they just compete, to be honest. But I will say lately, when I've watched Bethune's games at home, they do get a crowd. And I know they've already been online being like, we're about to pack this out. No Rattlers are going to be allowed in there. They're ready. So it should be a fun environment for both teams to play in.
Wow. All right. What else you got playing, Liv? What's going on with I know. Do you want to make an announcement? I know you're going to talk about some things a little bit maybe tomorrow, but I don't know. Any plans for the your preview of the SWAC season? What's going on with that?
I'll be posting some videos about that.
Okay.
So many people are just wanting different things, and I'm going to do what I want to do because that's what I should do. Got 10 million requests. I will be posting a string of videos of the preview for the 6 games this weekend, including my predictions, who I think is going to win, what to expect, the matchups that I like, because the matchup, if you guys don't let these records fool you of non-conference games, because it means absolutely nothing once conference play. If teams were dropping crazy games last year, none of that matters. Bethune is a really good team, and I've been saying that all season, and they have 2 really good post players, which makes me just nervous for FAMU, but I think it's going to be a great matchup. Grizzle's going to see one of the top defenders in the SWAC in Dunn, who's I'm sure going to face guard her the entire night, but I'll be posting videos and letting you guys know what to expect and where you can watch the game, what time it's at. So you literally have no excuses to not support your school.
Well said, Liv. Appreciate you. Thank you for taking time out this evening to get us going. We'll have a couple of, let me see. After we play that game in Daytona, are we, I got the schedule right here. Let me look.
Home games.
Okay.
Louisiana schools.
But that is the following Saturday. So
Saturday and Monday, right?
So basically we've got Saturday and then we have a whole week off before the next Saturday, which is the home debut. So this Saturday we're in Daytona Beach. Next Saturday is the home opener against Southern, and that'll be time to pack the pit. So hopefully the student body will be back, the band will be there, and we can hope for some good play. That's all we can hope for, right?
If you're going please sit low. That gym is so big. If you sit up at the top, no one can hear you. Try and sit at the lower half so you can be a part of the environment, because that gym, I swear, it was made for graduation. It's a beautiful, beautiful gym, but it's so big. But that Southern matchup should be good, and I hope people, the way teams get better is when you get behind them, when the fan base gets behind them and rallies them. So I hope FAMU shows up for that game versus Southern. and in Daytona, because I know a bunch of FAMU people live in Florida. So, Bryan.
Just a few. I'll be there. I'm planning on going. I plan on going. I have a game up in Port Orange. By that time that game ends, I'm gonna go over to Daytona Beach. It's not far. So hopefully I can get there for the women's game, but worst case, I'll be there for the men's game. So all right, Liv, thanks for all your time. Have a good evening. Make sure to follow Liv on Twitter or X and on YouTube at Live for Hoops. Live for hoops or die lonely, I like to say. So, bye, Liv.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Live for Hoops. Make sure you follow her. Send her a tweet. Let her know you appreciate her. Okay, fellas. Should we go back to the mailbag questions that people had? Or maybe what other things did you want to hit on here? I know you had some other. Were there any other talking points? I feel like there are always a bunch of talking points in this topic.
So I want to go. I want to go with, I told you I was concerned once Coach had left, and we talked about the bureaucracy of FAMU when you have a big search. It's especially the football coach, right? High profile. Well, I'm concerned even more about things I've heard. We've heard about this letter. We're not sure how the interim coach got named over other coaches who had been around longer. And we saw a letter that was sent, but it had no signatures. The players are out of town, so who drafted it? And then there's a backstory there that I'm not going to put out right now, but it concerns me, right? I want a transparent. I like a lot of candidates, and I think all the candidates that I've heard are pretty qualified, right?
Yep.
I can't knock any name pretty much that I've heard, to be honest.
Right.
But it bothers me when people are selfish and they take it upon themselves to think that they need to lie or influence a situation. And especially when I always talk about the student athletes experience. And I think it's really important that if you about the student athletes experience, then you can't mislead, you can't lie, trying to get your person get yourself in a better situation. One. The second thing is Coach Simmons said why he left, right? He gave some reasons. There's some other reasons that people can infer, and Marcus talked to some of those things, but when I look at the interim and how he was named, no shade at him. He's fine. I'm going to support him as long as he's the interim. But how that process happened, we have no idea. The AD did that 3.5 minutes and just said this person was selected. She didn't say if anybody else was considered on staff or anything, right? Now, later on, through a release that didn't even come from the university, the Democrat printed something, and that's when I talk about that letter. But there's another name that came out of left field, and Vaughn kind of talked about it. And, with NCCU head coach, Trey Oliver. Mm-hmm. Very qualified guy. He's won a championship too. Have no problem. Now but Rattler Nation, we're small. There's no secrets in Rattler Nation. Nope. We understand we understand there's a relationship there. And having a relationship with somebody who's qualified and them being considered is not a bad thing. What I will say is this. We had a really good thing going with Coach Simmons. He was a good fit for us, and we were a good fit for him. And we were highly successful and championship level successful. if you did anything to sabotage the situation so you could look out for somebody else and then folks gonna feel a certain way about that. If you reached out to somebody about a position before you even told Rattler Nation that you needed money to try to get your coach. I'm just saying the problem with not communicating and being transparent with your processes before and now is that it gives life to whatever else people put out. And people lose trust. You lose credibility. And when you lose that, it's very hard to get it back. And people would turn on you. Thank goodness, right now, the staff is loyal. FAMU is a special place. We champions. We do a lot well. We got a great fan base. We got great kids. It's an environment that not many people want to leave. But I would tell you, just frankly, I'm wondering how the AD's relationship with our former coach was that also a factor. Of course, professional he is. He's not going to say anything about that. But some of the backstories I'm hearing now makes me wonder that, and I can ask that out loud. You know what I'm saying? So I'm really concerned about the process, and that's why when you say, generally speaking, when I hear folks say, hey, the AD, you hired them to do a job, let them do their job. That sounds good, but are you experienced enough? Can I trust you? And we have a championship program, and I would hope you will weigh all of that in any decision with who fill this position. What does what do the players truly want? And when you say you talk to the coaches or you talk to the players, make sure you don't talk to the coaches and you don't talk to the players, because you ain't the only one talking to them. And I'm gonna leave it right there for now.
I think what's interesting, and I want to jump in there on that letter. I agree with you 100% about the fact that nobody signed it. Because if you go back to thinking, last time we saw a letter from student athletes of the football program was when? That compliance situation. And I still have a copy of that. And I think I want to hold on to that. I may even frame that thing, because that is powerful. And the fact that people signed it. Now, this thing that got to the Democrat, I feel like that's straight fugazi. That as like fake news as far as I'm concerned, because there's no signatures on it. It's an anonymous leadership council, which last I checked was made up of some guys who graduated. If I recall, the leadership council, I mean, I don't know, did all of a sudden the leadership council, did it change all of a sudden once the guys like Jeremy Moose and those guys and Isaiah Major, those guys are gone? So who's a part of this leadership council? I just think what I'm starting to see is, and this is like you said, Kelvin, kind of what's worrisome, people's interest above the student athletes. Now, I don't think I have to know everything that the athletic director does in this process. Okay? So, if she had one-on-one private conversations in order to name this interim person, I'm okay with that. I really am. I don't know how, I'm disappointed that you went around the chain of command, because apparently the chain of command in the program, you had an associate head coach, right? What's the purpose of having an associate head coach, that you're not going to give any responsibilities to and then go name somebody else? But whatever. I'm not even so much worried about contacting Trey Oliver, the head coach of North Carolina Central. A fellow journalist, Miss Keisha Kelly, Black College Experience, she reposted a video clip from April where our VP was at the Black Sports Business Symposium. And she was referencing the I think it was the COVID year or the period in which VP Sykes talked about being in a Zoom call or just being in a position to help coaches who were looking for somebody who was from an administration level to help them sort of answer questions about how to be interviewed, things you need to do to prepare yourself for an interview if you want to move forward into other coaching jobs. So she built up a network of coaches. She even referenced having a conversation with Willie Simmons before even knowing that the FAMU job was going to come open. You know? So do I think she's qualified to put together a list of candidates? I 100% think she is qualified to put together a list of candidates. I think the question that we all have to ask is, do her values about being a coach at Florida A&M align with what has, what was, and what it should be? Like we are those we're the constituents that the head coach, essentially the head coach is coaching for those players, but at the end of the day, we as alums and we as fans, we're the ones that, we're either going to support the program, support the coach, support the AD or not. So there has to be some sort of value alignment there. And what has she always said? She wants every student athlete to walk out with two things: a degree and a championship. So when she went left in the women's basketball hire, well, she went left with somebody pretty dynamic in the sport of basketball. I don't think you can do that in the sport of football. So you got to find somebody who's won. So when I hear her saying that, or if you just go with the premise of, hey, I'm just reaching out to get a feel of, hey, Trey Oliver, Now, from what I've been told, Trey Oliver recently signed a contract extension that puts him as one of the highest paid coaches in HBCU football. Trey Oliver is a North Carolina Central alum. He and his wife, they're from and alums of that market. Now, I start to think, if the salaries are competitive, why would Trey Oliver, who has an athletic director who is also an alum, okay, why would he want to leave? Why would he leave North Carolina Central? You know what I'm saying? Is the FAMU job that much better than North Carolina Central to make a lateral move at probably a same price point? That's a great question. Don't know, to be honest. But I think the things that trouble us and worry us about whether we're going in the right direction all start with the values and the direction and the vision, which again, we don't know the vision. We haven't been privy to the vision, which that has to change. Hopefully it will. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm as every day there's probably going to be a new name that comes up and comes out. And, I don't, we talked on our show, and I don't know about the in terms of endorsing a candidate. I mean, I know we all have people that we like. I think we're all in agreement that we'd like to see somebody that has FAMU ties. We have enough good people that have FAMU ties that can keep this thing going, that can help us reload and not rebuild. Marcus, you want to add anything here?
I listened to the replay of what HBCU game day did earlier today. Vaughn made a good point, and I thought about this the previous days. He made an analogy of advocating for an in-house candidate just because you want to keep a good thing going until the wheels fall off. And he made the analogy of the 80s 49ers, the 90s Cowboys, and the 2010 North Carolina A&T teams, even though, playing different levels. So I guess my concern, and I'm just curious, and we'll probably never know. There may be some people in Rattler Nation who already know, how things went down, good, bad, and ugly, in terms of why Coach Simmons has moved on to Duke. There are, and I'll elaborate a little bit on it, where, you have career aspirations. But I'm sure there's probably a component, and it came out, the other day, probably in his emotional response when he sat down with Vaughn. You want to keep this thing going. He's a hometown kid, and this is, I'll elaborate a little bit on the paper about it. And there were so many things in alignment with him being here. And can you bring in someone? I mean, like Kelvin said, Coach Simmons and Coach Bryan are one of one. So we can't expect a duplicate. But the things that were in place and the things that were tangible, or things that were made tangible that were intangible before, with Coach Simmons leading this program and being such an integral part of the community, can that be replicated by bringing somebody in, especially somebody from the outside? That's what that's what it's a potential to be lost. And so that was my concern about that. And even with the in-house candidate, you can have that continuity, but in terms of the overall impact, what potential is, what is lost there in terms of momentum or in terms of community impact. And there's nothing we could do about it now because Coach Simmons is now at Duke. But there's a lot of tangible and intangible things by not keeping this ball rolling. So you have to make sure you make a wise selection.
Yeah.
And it's not even about, it is about winning, but some of the things I hope that came out of the piece that I spoke about an hour ago is that there's a lot of intangibles that Coach Simmons brought to this community that you can't replicate by somebody who, just wins games, because Coach Simmons is doing more than just winning games. And so that's one of my tangential or secondary concerns about this process in terms of what the next selection will bring to the table as it relates to promoting FAMU, the community changer, FAMU, the beacon in the Big Bend. And Coach Simmons brought that and had no issues with bringing it every time he stepped foot in a public space.
And you know what? He could also deal with Rattler Nation, right? We are unfairly critical. We are, me included. We have big expectations, and our expectations usually are bigger than our pocketbooks, right?
Yeah.
But he dug right into that. He embraced that, right? It didn't bother him not one bit. It didn't offend him. And that's a trait that everybody ain't got. Coach Woods took this job and he hated it. He hated it. He didn't hate his paycheck, but he hated being here.
What year did he hate being here? Which year? After the first year? Or?
No, I'm gonna say it this way. I hated every year he was here. So
Man.
so it's reciprocated back. But no. So I and I said it on the show. So I just want to make sure whoever get the job, like I say, almost all the candidates I've heard are qualified. But I hope that we smart enough to take in the intangibles of what it means to be head coach at FAMU. Because being a head coach at FAMU comes with a whole lot of stuff that you don't control and that you got to put up with. And you got to smile, and you got to meet people, and you got to shake hands, and you can't be phony. You got to be real about it.
Mm-hmm. Kelvin, on top of that, and you've mentioned to it before, stepping into any role at FAMU comes with a lot of expectations, especially the football coach, because of the legacy of what the fans expect and the legacy that's laid out in the field house, in Gaither Gym, and in the history books. And now we have a head coach who goes out on a winning. I mean, it's almost like it's not to the same degree. It's like following Gaither, but you're following a coach who is 22 or 23-2 in conference, just went out on a Black College National Championship with the number 1 rated defense. And those are big footsteps to fill. And I don't know, somebody's going to accept the challenge. And like you just said, we can be sometimes unfairly critical. In season 1 and season 2, whoever steps in, you have
We're
some big
champions.
shoes to
Yeah, we're
you have big
champions. We
shoes to
defended
follow,
champions.
and it's
We
like
got a good team. Expectations on swole.
Hey,
that's a lot.
Let me ask you guys this question. I had a good friend of mine who is a SWAC legend, involved in the SWAC for years, asked me the question and said, am I correct when I say this football hire is the most important coaching hire in FAMU history? Is that
We got such a rich history. I don't know like that.
Yeah,
I agree, and I told him in
it's recency bias.
I told him I basically said in current history, last 5 years, I'd say yes, and it's probably just behind the VP Sykes hire. And the reason I say that is because the VP Sykes hire came after the controversies that followed the previous administration and how that ended. And things that, financially, that departure hurt FAMU. I believe that departure hurt FAMU from the standpoint of things that could have been that weren't. So now her hire is that stability, given what happened with our compliance issue in that season at the beginning of the year, and being able to chart us on a path where we can financially grow. I thought that was it. But this head coaching hire, and this might not be the only big hire of the year. This is another thing you got to think about. So, I was listening to Dr. Kenyatta Cavill's show. If you guys don't listen to the Sports Lab on Tuesday, Thursday night, you're missing out. And I believe, no, he may have said this actually on our spaces. He said this on our spaces. The most important hires at a university, right? I think he said your president, your athletic director, your head football coach, your head basketball coach, and probably your baseball coach. He said the 5 most important hires at a university, right? I look, she could be making 2 of them in 2024. Well, we know she's making one, and very well could be making a second, one of those big hires, right? So I'm just saying that is how important her hire is, and this hire is EA said legal counsel. You know what? Legal counsel might be in there as well. I don't know. But it's a tough one. It's a tough one. I don't, you know, I don't
this is a big hire. Not only, I mean, for any school, football coach is a big hire because athletics is the front porch, as many people have said, and football is the lead ornament or the lead thing on the front porch. So,
hey, we raised 130,000 and climbing in 48 hours because of a football coach leaving. That if that don't tell you how important football and athletics is at FAMU, when the last time we've ever done that in that amount of time? And that's without any plan, not knowing that it was coming along, that the ass was going to be here. So, I mean, mess around if you want to, find out. And the last thing I'll say, Bryan, on this, because I've got everything I want to get out, but we talked about that letter, and we talked about the players, the athlete experience. If you follow any of the student athletes on the football team, they're letting you know who their candidates are. And the first names that were coming out of their mouths were the Billy Rose, Smitty Rocks, KJ Blacks.
Right.
Now, you've had a couple of them more recently who mentioned the interim, but I'm just saying, if you look at, if you just do informative, look at Rattler Nation, look at the players, look at the coaches, the same names appearing. If you go outside of that, you better hit a damn home run. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I will say, you know, remember when we were back in this discussion talking about where the funds go, and I'm going to replay this here. The Rattler Athletic Fund is there to assist the athletic director. And so many times we promote that Rattler Athletic Fund link. That is a way in which people can directly support athletics.
Year round. You can always go there. You can set it up reoccurring. You can set it up as reoccurring. Same thing with the FAMU First fundraising campaign the NAA has. Is an account that you can set up. You can make it reoccurring every month. So we have some mechanisms in place to be able to give to athletics.
Right. And what those other organizations outside of those other organizations have to get themselves aligned with a strategic plan that makes sense towards the growth of athletics. We talked about, a lot of people were in the comments wanting to say, well, what about other sports? How do all sports? What, we got other championship sports? Yes, we do. And yes, those other sports need funds too. And guess what? There are accounts. There are mechanisms in place to help people for those sports. You know, we just really need to, and I really hope what comes out of this again is it creates that understanding that a clear vision is needed, because you can't wait. You can't wait. You can't wait until the last 12th or 11th hour to want to match an offer. We gotta have things in place.
Well, and all I just want to add, Bryan, is we can't wait for it. We can't wait for them to give it to us. We got to help develop it with them. We have to be united, and it's all of our responsibilities. Stop thinking people who got titles got the answers. Some of them incompetent as hell ain't got no answers. Some of them have a look, some of them have, but I'm just saying, what we're doing is helping to educate the masses, and hopefully we'll all understand how important it is for not just to give it. Every time you hear them talk about Luna, yeah, I need to give more. We need to do more than just give. We need to be involved.
Yes.
That's different.
Mhm.
If you got $50,000 the blow, and you can just throw 10,000, that's great. But hell, if you throw that 10,000 out there and they spend it, then they got to come back to you for that 10,000 again. That's stupid. Have some endowed. Take that $10,000, endow it. Put it in a money interest account so that it generates money every year. We got to think about business and how we do things differently.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we sharing it with you all.
Yeah, and to that point, Kelvin, I was on another chat, and last week as the money was rolling in, and it was amazing to see. But I made the analogy that why does this seem like? And I couldn't think of a movie title, but why does it seem like this is a romantic comedy where somebody got to leave or threaten to leave for you to act right? So, and that's one of the reasons I asked the question to Curtis Johnson about, and you posed it very well. How do you make it more proactive? And I followed up with that to ask, considering what I was going to talk about later about Coach Simmons having indicators the last 5 to 6 years that he may be going FBS or looking for something. Why didn't we anticipate that, either from a financial standpoint or from a contingency standpoint? And he made as much. Mr. Johnson said, we learned some lessons here. But I think for anyone who's watching, and like for those dedicated folks being, in the pit or having discussions, and maybe we're just too spread out amongst the fan, or don't have a concentrated place for the FAMU alums to kind of think about it. The writing was on the wall. We should have anticipated that. And, I don't know if we necessarily would have promoted it because he's a great coach and a seemingly great person, but at least anticipate it and have some degree of foresight that something like this is going to happen. We're going to have the financial reserves and the infrastructure in place in order to identify candidates quickly to replace someone who's clearly on an upward trajectory. So hopefully the lessons that were taken from this going forward, that within the power, within our best power collectively that we have, that we can better be better prepared for that next situation. If we select the right coach or coaches for a given sport, because it's not limited to one. Who knows? Coach Gokon, for all we know, somebody could be looking at him.
Not only that, those coaches who win championships usually have clauses in their contract too, like Coach Shoot. If you win the conference, if you win an NCAA game, so the football coaches ain't the only one who won't get those bonuses. It's all coaches. And the last thing I add to that is the reason I hop on internal operations so much. We talk about the alumni giving, and we talk about the AD and administration and leadership always get left out of this discussion, is because right now I have the department don't control revenue streams that they should control. And if they don't control it, that don't mean they necessarily have accountability over those revenue streams. If they're not controlling tickets, which is one of the top 3 areas typically of athletic department in terms of revenue, if they're not controlling some of their concessions or their auxiliary areas like the North End Zone, I mean, that's a problem. But that's the decision that's made by the university as a whole. And so I suggest that that athletics should have their own auxiliary department that does those things, but it should be under the umbrella of athletics. And like I say, if you look at some other larger state universities and some other organizations, that's how it's structured. we need to separate if athletic. Everybody say athletics got to be self-sustaining, but hell, a lot of their contracts are tied up with other auxiliaries. If it needs to be self-sustaining, separate it out. So those are just things that need to be discussed and explained in more detail, and hopefully we'll have that town hall at the convention, if not sooner, the NAA convention, and we'll be able to help develop the future of our athletic department.
Mhm.
I'm done.
State of Rattler athletics is needed. VP Sykes. I would tell y'all to send an email to her, but for some reason, other than Chad Ochocinco, our ambassador, there's no way to contact the AD if you go to FAMUathletics.com. Now, you could maybe, if you're ingenious enough to see how everyone else's email addresses are set up through the university, you could probably figure out her email address. But
No, you couldn't.
no.
It's not as intuitive as you would think.
That's shameful.
It is.
That's shameful. That's shameful. That has to change.
Yeah.
So I guess what I would tell you to do, tweet it to her. She's, she reads your tweets. Send her a tweet. Let her know that, you want a clear vision. Don't just tag her in your tweets and messages that you're out there firing out, but direct it straight to her and just say, hey, VP Sykes, when will we have a state of the union or state of Rattler athletics? We need to hear the clear vision that you have for our athletic programs in 2024. It's time. So, yeah, I agree with I agree.
All right, Edwin, you better be careful.
Yeah, I don't think she'll answer any questions in the public forums. Although she is very she had been very active. If you are part of the Rattler Boosters, you can usually
220
catch and the 220. But even that, she's making less appearances there. So that's why I said the most direct way apparently is not an email, but it's a tweet, or a post. So post it.
And send it to. She got a chief of staff or whatever that young lady's name that she brought with her. So make sure that person gets it.
Markel Broussard. She is the executive assistant to the vice president. So her email address is there. So maybe you send it to her and maybe it'll get to the VP. If enough of you send an email to her, it'll be hard to ignore.
And I would CC the president and the board chair too.
I don't know if her DMs are open, Edwin. I to be honest, I doubt it.
I think they are.
They are?
Yeah, keep it on athletics though.
That'd be.
The other thing, gosh, I forgot the thought I was gonna make.
Phone number, you can contact the athletic department. The main number, athletic phone line. It's right there.
3525
3868 599 3868.
But the other thing, I guess one of many benefits of her articulating a vision of where she sees athletics is to understand where she sees athletics in terms of
that's all. That's
her
all.
aspirations. Like if she says, like, you know what, I have a 5-year plan. I want to see us have like a 30,000 stadium with multifunction or multi-use. I don't know what it's called, multi-use buildings, and I'd like to have 15,000 season ticket holders. Let's make it happen 5 years from now. So, and I'm not And I'm just saying in terms of what her desires are, where she's not necessarily, I'm not throwing down the gauntlet like, you better, da 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 da. It's just a matter of what potential does she see here, and it may even push, just like the button was pushed this past weekend. And like Kenya said, vision, all this other stuff. If she says, I believe we have the potential to go from here to here in a 5-year plan. This is what I need y'all to do. And, if that's articulated and clear, and even if it pushes the administration and the BOT and they say, oh, you're going too far, it's like, well, that's where she sees it. And if y'all don't see it, then, you can either get on board, but it would help. And, she may have, like Dr. Cavill says, might end up, on the outside looking in. But if she sees the potential to say, hey, I see us winning, averaging 6 championships a year, this many season ticket holders, this much in a Rattler endowed athletic endowment, XYZ, because I believe that we have the strength and numbers and the dedication within our alumni base to do it. And that lays down the gauntlet for us, lays down the gauntlet for administration and everybody else who supports Rattler athletics to make it happen.
Hey, by the way, those who were talking about the 220 club, that's going to be a while. They announced that they won't have another meeting till they've canceled all meetings to the end of February.
Whoa.
Just for the record.
Well, interesting. Okay. Well, that's gonna do it. Let's pack it up. Again, we will keep our ears open, keep our eyes open. Obviously, every day some new info comes out. I will say it's encouraging to hear that the recruiting is still happening. We've seen news of players committing to transfer to Florida A&M. We've seen, if I'm not mistaken, the only 2 players that I've seen pop back into the portal are the 2 Florida State guys.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else that you spotlighted and we spotlighted last Wednesday, seems like forever. That episode we did last Wednesday seems like forever. So much has happened.
Yeah, none of the signees have backed out, and the 2 verbal commits from Florida State. Yeah, they're but see, and that's another question I have to get clarity.
They technically not tied.
Yeah, because I know
when
NCAA.
When the coaches leave, they have like a 30-day window.
Mm-hmm. And I wasn't sure if that's from a coach getting fired or just leaving in general, fired or
just in general.
Okay.
Just in general.
Because I knew the fired one because that came up with Michigan State early in the season when their coach got in his mess, and they had a 30-day window to transfer. So I knew about, about if a coach is fired, but I wasn't sure if that applies for a coach leaving for another position as well. But we haven't heard a peep from a couple of other verbals, but the 2 verbals we have from Florida State, an offensive lineman, Quayshawn Sapp, and running back Rodney Hill, they opened a commitment. But we haven't heard from, I guess we got a verbal commitment from a Michigan State linebacker who's ironically from the same high school as Quayshawn Sapp, Lee County in Georgia. And the verbal commitment from I guess he's a grad transfer from Central Michigan. I guess he's a 6'8", 250 defensive lineman and tight end. So I don't know which position he's being recruited for, but I think the assistant tight end coach is the one that retweeted. So it may be for tight end. Haven't heard from them. And it looks like today we just presented an offer to someone I presume is Isaiah Major's younger brother, Jeremiah Major, who's a defensive tackle, also from Central Michigan. That came down either just before or during our show.
Okay. Good stuff.
Yes, Hunt is still in the portal at this time.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that's a position of need.
Here's my thought, Mike. State of Rattler Athletics at the NAA convention, I don't think that's the right place for it, to be honest. I think it needs to happen sooner.
It needs to happen. Period.
Well, yeah, I think waiting 5 months from now is too long. You know, this should happen at the end of January.
Well, Brian, with a caveat, I would like it sooner, but it has to be meaningful too. So if you have it in a month, but there's no real ideals and there's no execution, then I don't know how beneficial that is, and people will lose that trust, and people will kind of separate from it. So I do agree, it needs to be sooner, and I would like for it to be led by her and the president, frankly. But I would hope if they have one early, whatever comes out of that, they're prepared by the convention to say, all right, we took what we discussed and what y'all gave us at this town hall meeting, and now we're prepared to present our vision and what we plan on doing moving forward. So I agree with you. I just hope it's meaningful.
And actually, Edwin says her anniversary is actually technically tomorrow. If I'm not mistaken, she was hired January 4th. Officially, she started January 4th, 2023. So tomorrow is her anniversary. So I'm also told somebody hit me up. My guy Keith hit me up Instagram. She replies to people on Instagram. So you can possibly get into DMs on Instagram and talk to her there. All right.
Okay.
Contribute to the show however you can. We appreciate you. Whether you choose to use the super chat on YouTube, if you're on the Jericho Broadcast Network's MyJBN1 page, or you can donate. There's a link on the Square link. There's a Cash App link there. You can also check it out in the description for details. Every cup of coffee that you bless us with is appreciated. It'll help us, travel to some more events. We're looking to try to see if we can be in Tallahassee and do a couple of live shows during the basketball season. Some other things that we're trying to plan, put some things in place, maybe even that relates to covering softball, covering baseball. But it just helps us and be able to do this show and keep doing this show the right way. And so you can always support. Please make sure you're following on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at O&G StrikeZone. Also, you can go watch a lot of clips on YouTube. The show replays, you can find it on our YouTube channel at O&G StrikeZone if you will go and subscribe there as well. That's going to do it for tonight's show. Be looking out. Marcus is going to he's going to finish that article. Maybe we're going to do some last little edits on it and try to I'm going to clip that segment that Marcus did a great job talking about, and we'll clip that, put that out there so you guys can watch that again. But he'll also have the article out. So he just kind of gave you a sneak peek into what that article will look like. And so that'll be, if not today, tomorrow, probably by maybe Friday, we'll look to try to have that posted. So sound good, Marcus?
Yep.
All right. Well, again, thank you, Rattler Nation. We appreciate all your support this year already. You guys have been fabulous. Keep sharing the show, sharing the feed with Rattler Nation. Maybe somebody didn't see the show, and what is that?
The belt.
Yeah. We have to come up with a belt. I don't know. I'm not paying $3.99 for a belt, but maybe we'll have to come up with something a little more affordable. The old school leather. Yeah, well.
Switch.
Yeah.
We saving it because we're trying to unite at this point. Educate and unite.
Yes, we're trying to unite. We're hoping the goal is to not have to use the belt in 2024. So don't be so quick. Just be patient. Let's keep faith and say your prayers for this administration and for our VP. But give your
input.
Exactly. Give your input.
Write,
Let her know.
write your letters.
Write your letters. Send your
Do
tweets.
your
Send your
emails.
posts on
There you
Instagram.
go. Yeah.
Do all of that stuff. And hopefully it'll be heard. So thanks to everybody. We appreciate all of you guys for checking us out. Again, we want to thank Curtis Johnson, N8 National Alumni Association president, for coming on in the first hour. Appreciate Olivia Antilla, for coming in and talking preseason basketball with us in the second hour. And for my guys, Kelvin and Marcus, I'm Bryan Fulford. Rattler Nation, fangs up. Make sure to strike, and strike again out here in those streets. And don't get into any Twitter beefs that we wouldn't get into.
Yeah. Don't. Yeah, put your energy in something positive.
Yeah, put your energy into something positive. It ain't worth it. All right, guys. Have a good night. God bless you. Be safe. We'll see you next Wednesday, probably. Hopefully, Lord willing, next Wednesday. All right. Peace out.